Chapter 1300. Under the encirclement of more than 30 mighty figures of sword sect, Yen Beichen wielded the hatred fiend saber, and suddenly howled into the skies. This howl was like sobbing, mournful and sorrowful. Everyone who heard this howl felt an enormous sense of grief and hatred. It was a sound domain attack from the Hatred Sutra. Back when Su Zimo was fighting Tao Lord Hatred, he had seen Tao Lord Hatred release this sound domain secret skill. However, compared to Yen Beichen, Tao Lord Hatred's sound domain secret skill was way inferior. Tao Lord Hatred had not experienced a huge change, and could not comprehend the pain, despair and hatred in the Hatred Sutra. However, Yen Beichen was different. Su Zimo knew sound domain secret skills such as Thunderclap Kill, and the 6 words Daming Mantra. When released, he could roughly control the range, and not injure others by accident. However, Yen Beichen's sound domain secret skill was an indiscriminate attack. All the cultivators in Heaven and Earth Valley were enduring the impact of the howl. Every single one of them couldn't help but feel the sorrow, despair, and resentment in their hearts. The 30-plus mighty figures of the sword sect that were closest to them were even greatly shocked, and their expressions were that of astonishment. Clang! Clang! The hatred fiend saber buzzed and trembled. It was extremely excited when it sensed the hatred in Yen Beichen's heart. I hate it! Yen Beichen's eyes turned pitch black like 2 bottomless abysses. With a tragic roar, he strode forward and slashed in reverse towards a mighty figure of sword sect. The hatred fiend saber transformed into a black beam, and arrived instantly. Before the blade even landed, the endless hatred turned into pitch black fiend chi, and entangled the grand cultivator of the sword sect. No matter how sharp the mighty figure of sword sect released, it could not sever the fiend chi on his body. Exclamation point. The hatred fiend saber descended, and sliced the mighty figure of sword sect into 2. His essence spirit was destroyed and he died. The hatred fiend chi on Yen Beichen's body was endless. It was as though his entire body had transformed into an endless abyss that sucked in the surrounding mighty figures of sword sect, wanting to devour them. I hate it! Yen Beichen roared once more, and arrived in front of another mighty figure of sword sect, slashing with his saber once more. Break it! That mighty figure from the sword clan was quite something as well. His body emanated a sword aura that seemed capable of exterminating all life, cutting off the hatred demonic chi that had wrapped around him. He broke free and swung his sword to block the hatred demonic saber. The hatred fiend saber shone brightly. Snap! In the mighty figure's fiend saber was slashed by the hatred fiend saber. The hatred fiend saber slashed his slash killed another mighty figure of sword sect. A mighty figure of the sword sect was about to release a supreme sword Dao when his eyes suddenly met Yen Beichen's demonic eyes. He was stunned on the spot. His Beichen fiend mighty pitch black fiend chi began to spread from his body. A conjoint body mighty figure's soul was captured by Yen Beichen's visual technique, and he could not control himself. The hatred fiend saber slashed again. A gigantic object flew high into the air. The mighty figure of sword sect did not wake up even in death. After killing 3 mighty figures of sword sect with 3 slashes, Shura's might shocked the entire cultivation world once more and caused an uproar. The Hatred Sutra is indeed terrifying. Heavenly Secrets narrowed his eyes and murmured softly. He did not attack and remained uninvolved right from the beginning. Everyone don't panic. Release the earth-slaying sword formation, and kill Shura with the might of the sword formation. Immortal Sword reminded hurriedly. In the ancient era, the Sword Emperor obtained one of the 3 great sword arts, the earth-slaying sword art. However, it was not easy to cultivate the earth-slaying sword art. Its killing intent was too strong, and it was extremely powerful. If one was careless, there would be a backlash from the killing intent. In less severe cases, one would suffer chi deviation. In more severe cases, one might even die on the spot with their blood splattered everywhere. Later on, the Sword Emperor deduced the lifeless sword art from the earth-slaying sword art. It was extremely powerful as well, but was relatively easier to cultivate, and was passed down to this day. However, the earth-slaying sword art could be released in the form of a sword formation. With many mighty figures sharing the killing intent of the earth-slaying sword art, there would be no backlash from the killing intent. Swoosh! Swoosh, swoosh. The remaining mighty figures of Sword Sect calmed down and set up a sword formation, releasing sword chi that was filled with killing intent. Instantly the ground trembled. A series of gigantic and deep cracks appeared, as though dragons and snakes were alarmed. The earth released its killing intent and dragons and snakes rose. Yen Beichen looked at the incoming sword chi with an indifferent and expressionless expression. His white hair danced and his black eyes were dead. If someone could cultivate the earth-slaying sword art, they might be able to threaten him. Right now, although many mighty figures of Sword Sect joined forces to form the earth-slaying sword formation, it had lost the sharpness that the earth-slaying sword art should have. Swoosh, swoosh. The fiend chi around Yen Beichen surged and formed a pitch-black fiend sea that devoured all the incoming sword chi. Not only that, the fiend sea even absorbed all the dermic powers in the surroundings and grew continuously, forming even more hatred fiend chi. Earth-slaying sword formation? Break! Yen Beichen hollered and gripped the hatred fiend saber with both hands. Leaping into the air, he looked down from above and slashed down viciously at the sword formation below. Boom! There was a deafening sound. Countless swords fell. Many figures retreated with pale faces. Some of the mighty figures of Sword Sect could not even hold it in and spat out mouthfuls of blood with tragic expressions. Immortal sword. Even if the Sword Emperor revives today, he won't be able to save you. Yen Beichen walked towards Immortal Sword step by step and said word by word. His voice was hoarse and deep with torrential hatred. Finally, a look of panic flashed through Immortal Sword's eyes. Heavenly Secrets were on the same boat. Hurry up and attack. Immortal Sword hollered. Heavenly Secrets smiled indifferently, and his figure flashed. Wielding a folding fan, he drifted towards Yen Beichen. Since that's the case, I'll try Shura's Hatred Fiend technique. On the other side, Su Zimo released 1,000 heaven-slaying sword chi and killed a few conjoint body mighty figures on the spot, causing the remaining mighty figures to panic as well. Taking advantage of the chaos, Su Zimo waved his sleeves and swept up Nian Qi, who had just charged forward, sending him back to Misty Peak. Don't come. You can't interfere in this battle. Su Zimo's tone was firm and unquestionable. But young master, Nian Qi could not bear to do so. The old immortal crane shook her head and sighed gently. Nian Qi, listen to Zimo first. If you head forward, he'll probably be distracted because he has to take care of you. Although Nian Qi was unwilling, he could only stand on the spot and watch the battlefield intently with clenched fists. Not only did the 1,000 heaven-slaying sword chi fail to intimidate the conjoint body mighty figures, it even incurred the wrath of the immortal Buddhist and fiend super sects. They were conjoint body mighty figures. How could they be repelled by Dharma Daojun? Araki Takashi, let's see how many more times you can release such a dermic art. A Chaos Essence Sect mighty figure waved his hand and ordered. Mighty figures of Chaos Essence Sect, listen up. Attack and kill Araki Takashi with all your might. All of you attack. I don't believe that Araki Takashi is merely Dharma Daojun and can overturn the heavens. A mighty figure of Heavenly Dipper Sect waved his hand as well. Initially, there were only more than 50 conjoint body mighty figures that attacked Su Zimo. After the first exchange, more than 100 conjoint body mighty figures surrounded him in the blink of an eye. Furthermore, the number was still increasing. Chapter 1301. If you want to see my combat strength, I'll let you guys see all you want. Against the encirclement of many conjoint body mighty figures, Su Zimo's eyes lit up, and a rumble sounded from his body as 3 phantoms soared into the skies. Araki Takashi has indeed condensed 3 heaven and earth dharma characteristics. The rumors are true. It's no wonder why he's the #1 monster incarnate of history. Even the ancient emperors are far inferior to him at the dharma characteristic realm. It's useless even if his combat strength is heaven-defying. Araki Takashi will definitely die if he wants to save the taboo living being. His path of cultivation has come to an end. A commotion broke out in the crowd. However, the discussions died down before long. In the end, the densely packed crowd actually became absolutely silent, deathly silent. The gazes of the cultivators were filled with endless shock, as the 3 heaven and earth dharma characteristics rose continuously. 80 feet, 87 feet, 89 feet. It did not stop. 90 feet. Supreme Dharma characteristics. Furthermore, there were 3 of them. Normally speaking, conjoint body mighty figures had already fused their heaven and earth Dharma characteristics into their bodies and had a strong aura. Even if their heaven and earth Dharma characteristics were dozens of feet tall and indomitable, they could not compare to conjoint body mighty figures in terms of aura. However, supreme Dharma characteristics were different. Standing in the void, the supreme Dharma characteristics were fused with heaven and earth to begin with. It was as though a divine being had descended and emitted a terrifying aura that intimidated the surroundings. A single supreme Dharma characteristic was enough to cause a stir in the cultivation world. 3 supreme Dharma idols. The psychological and visual impact on the group of cultivators was unimaginable. It was not only the Dharma Daojun present. Even the conjoint body mighty figures that charged forward were shocked, and their expressions changed. What sort of concept was it for a single person to condense 3 supreme Dharma characteristics? If this person were to fuse all 3 supreme Dharma characteristics into his body and enter the conjoint body realm, how strong would his strength be? Many conjoint body mighty figures could not imagine it. Or rather, they did not dare to imagine it. Initially, the experts of the primordial 6 races were watching the show in high spirits. The moment the 3 heaven and earth Dharma characteristics descended, the expressions of the experts of the primordial 6 races changed as well. The Golden Crow Third Prince narrowed his eyes and murmured softly, "Interesting. He has 3 supreme Dharma characteristics. This human monster is terrifying. If he were to grow up, he might not lose to the ancient human emperor." The mighty figure of the heavenly I race said slowly. Rakshasa Feng Tian licked his lips, seemingly unconcerned. "There are many humans and they're as vast as ants. It's normal for 1 or 2 monster incarnates to be born. Although Dharma Taoist, just Dharma Taoist, Dharma 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 Taoist Dharma, even though they were unwilling to admit it, they knew in their hearts that if their cultivation realms were the same, they would not be a match for Tao Lord Desolate Marshal. Dharma Dharma, Dharma Dharma Ma, Dharma, Dharma. Other than the ancient times, when they had been defeated by the 10,000 human emperor, the demon emperor Li Hen, and a few other emperors of the same realm, most of the time, they had never felt threatened. However, they felt threatened by this Araki Takeshi. Of course, the experts of the primordial 6 races could still sit still. After all, they had dozens of conjoint body mighty figures present, and were an entire major cultivation realm higher than Tao Lord Araki Takeshi. Once the human race was almost done fighting, any one of their mighty figures would be enough to settle everything. On the battlefield, the thunderdermic body had dark clouds above its head and stood on a sea of thunder. Its entire body was surrounded by dazzling thunder and lightning, majestic and domineering. It held a long whip condensed from millions of thunderbolts in its hand, as if it was a sovereign descending upon the world with a monstrous aura. The rhylidermic body sat cross-legged on a golden lotus platform. It had a dignified appearance and shone with a sacred Buddhist light. With its brows lowered and eyes lowered, a series of majestic Sanskrit sounds came from beside it. The heavenly fiend Dharma body was shrouded in fiend chi, and its eyes were pitch black. Wielding the heavenly fiend scythe that was shrouded in death chi, it was as though it was a grim reaper that had walked out of hell and could reap the lives of any living being. "Kill!" Suzimo hollered. 3 supreme Dharma characteristics protected him in the middle and moved at the same time, charging towards the locked night spirit in the distance. Piak! The thunder whip swung and tore through the air, whipping a conjoint body mighty figure while he was stunned. The body of the conjoint body mighty figure was torn into pieces and blood mist spewed out. Sho! An essence spirit fled in a panic and escaped from the battlefield without turning back. That was the only reason why it survived. The power of a supreme Dharma characteristic was enough to kill a conjoint body mighty figure. The conjoint body mighty figure was enraged and had a sorrowful expression. However, there was nothing he could do. Conjoint body mighty figures had exuberant life force and could regrow severed limbs. However, there was no way he could recover his shattered body. Rebirth from a drop of blood was a power that only the Mahayana realm possessed, and was a divine power. Exclamation point. A fountain of blood spewed out from the battlefield. A gigantic head was severed by the heavenly fiend's scythe. Before the essence spirit within could escape, it was corroded by the fiend chi, and was destroyed on the spot. When the conjoint body mighty figure who escaped first saw that, he rejoiced instead. Compared to that mighty figure, at the very least he was still alive. Boom! The Rulai dermic body conjured dermic seals with its palms, and as though it was moving a gigantic mountain, a huge shadow shrouded over and suppressed a conjoint body mighty figure beneath. Great Meru Mountain Seal. The conjoint body mighty figure did not even make a sound before he was crushed into meat paste by the Great Meru Mountain Seal, released by the Rulai dermic body. The three supreme Dharma characteristics descended and released their might, killing two conjoint body mighty figures in succession. Everyone don't panic. A supreme Dharma characteristic is only a heaven and earth Dharma characteristic. No matter how strong it is, there's a limit. A mighty figure of Heavenly Dipper sect said in a deep voice. Even without his reminder, the other mighty figures had already calmed down. To be able to cultivate to the conjoint body realm, they had experienced way too many battles in their lives. What had they not seen before? Even if they were suddenly stunned by the three supreme Dharma characteristics, and Su Zimo took advantage of the opportunity to kill two mighty figures, the remaining conjoint body mighty figures reacted in a flash. If it was an ordinary conjoint body mighty figure, they would not be able to defend against the killing power of a supreme Dharma characteristic. However, the conjoint body mighty figures present were all from super sects of the immortal, Buddhist and fiend sections. All of them were paragons and monster incarnates that dominated an area. Bang! 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 Many conjoint body mighty figures attacked one after another. Many mighty figure dermic weapons tore through the air and descended. Countless dermic arts poured down and charged towards the three supreme Dharma characteristics. The three supreme Dharma characteristics did not manage to protect Su Zimo for long before they stopped. They were restricted to the spot by the attacks of many conjoint body mighty figures, and could not advance. However, with the protection of the three supreme Dharma characteristics, it was extremely difficult for many mighty figures to injure Su Zimo. The three supreme Dharma characteristics danced with thunder whips, conjured dermic seals of the Buddhist monasteries, and waved the heavenly fiend scythe. Like 3 heads and 6 arms, they released powerful combat strength and defended against the encirclement of many mighty figures from the immortal Buddhist and fiend sections. They looked down on the world and everyone else in an insufferably arrogant manner. Chapter 1302. Roar! Roar! Right then, more than 10 tall black figures suddenly charged into the battlefield. They emitted a foul stench and had menacing expressions, covered in long hair. Although the figures were in human form, they could no longer be considered as humans. To be precise, they were more than 10 battle corpses. Corpse refinement cult, one of the 5 heretical doctrines, had attacked. 3 conjoint body mighty figures of corpse refinement cult stood outside the battlefield and controlled more than 10 terrifying battle corpses to attack Su Zimo's 3 supreme Dharma characteristics continuously. Those battle corpses were not ordinary corpses. Instead, they were refined from the bodies of fallen mighty figures, and their flesh and bones were incomparably powerful. Coupled with the secret skills of corpse refinement cult, the battle corpses were invulnerable to weapons, fire and water. Although they could not release dermic arts, every single battle corpse carried intense corpse poison and was filled with filthy chi. A single strand of hair from the battle corpse could easily poison a Dharma Daojun to death. The most frightening thing was that the battle corpses did not feel pain or fear. The other conjoint body mighty figures were still wary against Su Zimo's supreme Dharma characteristics and clashed with dermic arts and weapons. However, these battle corpses were completely unscrupulous as they charged forward recklessly. Even though they were repelled by the supreme Dharma characteristics and had their sternum shattered, they were oblivious and charged forward once more to fight the supreme Dharma characteristics time and time again. Those battle corpses would not die unless they were reduced to ashes. They were practically immortal, The body of the sovereign's celestial appearance was also inevitably stained with a lot of filthy pus, and its radiance was obviously much dimmer. Against the attacks of many conjoint body mighty figures, the power of the supreme Dharma characteristics was depleted rapidly. Ha 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 ha. When the mighty figure of Chaos Essence Sex saw that the outcome was set, he could not help but laugh. Araki Takashi, let's see how long more your 3 supreme Dharma characteristics can last. Fellow Taoists, this lad is already at his wit's end. Today is the day to kill Araki Takashi. A mighty figure of Heavenly Dipper sect shouted as well. Many mighty figures responded and were invigorated, their attacks becoming even more ferocious. Sigh, Araki Takashi is still defeated in the end. 3 supreme Dharma idols. Such a monstrous genius who has shocked both the past and the present still couldn't escape the fate of being suppressed. The crowd sighed with emotion. The great battle between Extreme Fire and Purple Flame had yet to determine a victor. Although Extreme Fire had already gained control of the situation with his unparalleled fire taming skills, Purple Flame's dharmic powers were robust, and it was difficult for Extreme Fire to suppress him completely within a short period of time. Seeing Suzumo's predicament in danger, Extreme Fire grew increasingly anxious. Soaring snake-burning god, Haku-Dojin roared angrily, his divine sense condensed, and a burning flying serpent drilled out from between his eyebrows and rushed towards Xian. Haku-Dojin had conjured an essence spirit secret skill. It was clear how anxious he was. Xian's expression changed. The soaring serpent flaming spirit was an essence spirit secret skill of the Scarlet Flame Mental Sutra. Ordinary essence spirit secret skills could not defend against it at all. Slash. A bloody light suddenly flashed between Purple Flame's eyebrows. A blood-colored saber tore through the air, emitting an extremely evil aura as it slashed towards the incoming flying serpent. The 2 essence spirit secret skills collided silently. However, an extremely terrifying spirit consciousness fluctuation spread out. As for Extreme Fire, a look of shock flashed through his face. As though he recalled something, he exclaimed, Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. You actually learned the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. The Blood Saber was an essence spirit secret skill of the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, and was recognized by Extreme Fire. Instantly, Extreme Fire understood why Purple Flame's cultivation had not only recovered from his injuries in a short few decades, but also increased tremendously. The source of everything was the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. That fiend technique was way too terrifying. Back when the Blood Demon Tao Lord appeared out of nowhere, although he was only at the Dharma characteristic realm, the impact and fear he caused to the entire cultivation world was something that even conjoint body mighty figures and Mahayana patriarchs could not compare to. Hee. Purple Flame did not refute and grinned. Extreme Fire, you're the only one who has opportunities, but I'm not allowed to have any? Absorb. Purple Flame channeled the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, and his eyes shone with a sanguine light as he prepared to absorb the endless bloodline that was scattered on the battlefield. Extreme Fire's heart sank. He was once by Suzumo's side and knew the power of the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra very well. If Purple Flame were to absorb the bloodline on the battlefield, his strength would recover within a short period of time, and there was even a high chance that he could break through his cultivation realm. Right now, most of the bloodlines scattered on the battlefield were the bloodlines of mighty figures. A single drop of blood of a mighty figure contained an unimaginable amount of energy. Right then, Heavenly Secrets, who was initially fighting with Shura, noticed this and retracted his smile. He glared at Purple Flame with killing intent in his eyes. All of a sudden, Purple Flame's expression changed. He had just channeled the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra and merely absorbed a few wisps of bloodline when it was forcefully severed by a power. Suddenly, he could not sense the bloodline on the battlefield, as though it was blocked by some power. Although Extreme Fire did not know what happened to Purple Flame, he realized that it was an opportunity and attacked without hesitation. Samadhi Dao Fire. Extreme Fire released the strongest dharmic art of the Scarlet Flame Mental Sutra right away. Using essence, chi and spirit as Samadhi, Extreme Fire condensed a Scarlet Dao Fire that descended above Purple Flame's head instantly. Purple flame roared and channeled the dharmic powers in his body hurriedly, conjuring a sinister hellfire to defend against it. However, there was no way the power of hellfire alone could defend against the Samadhi Dao fire. As soon as the two types of flames clashed, the victor was decided. Purple flame's clothes began to burn. Before long, his fur burst into flames as well. When he saw that, the killing intent in Heavenly Secrets' eyes gradually disappeared. Heavenly Secrets frowned slightly with a confused expression. On the other side, a mighty figure of Poison Sect was not involved and had a clearer view of the situation. He declared loudly, "Everyone, the victor is about to be decided on Extreme Fire's side. If you guys can't kill that lad now, it'll be even more difficult when Extreme Fire attacks. Why don't I poison this beast to death first?" The mighty figure of Poison Sect said sinisterly. "How dare you?" When he heard that, Su Zimo hollered. The current situation was getting more and more dangerous. The experts of the primordial 6 races had yet to appear, and the longer this dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for him. He had to rescue Night Spirit as soon as possible. However, he could not break through the defenses of many mighty figures with just 3 supreme Dharma characteristics, let alone approach Night Spirit and rescue him. Why wouldn't I dare? You're just a puny Dao Lord, and you can't even protect yourself. How dare you threaten me? The mighty figure of Poison Sect walked towards Night Spirit and sneered. How dare you heretical sects provoke me? I'll bury all of you here today without returning. Killing intent surged in Su Zimo's eyes as he said slowly, Dharma characteristics fuse. Condense. Swoosh. The bodies of the 3 supreme celestial bodies suddenly ignited with raging flames. The thunder dharmic body burned with scarlet flames. The Rulai dharmic body burned with golden flames. The heavenly fiend dharmic body burned with black flames. The filth on the 3 supreme dharma bodies burned rapidly and dissipated, causing their dharmic powers to become incomparably pure once more. The 3 supreme dharma bodies moved at the same time. Guided by the power of flames, they fused together rapidly and disappeared, forming a gigantic fireball that burned furiously with a torrential blaze. Chapter 1303. Dharma Characteristic Fusion? What's going on? Where are Araki Takashi's 3 supreme Dharma characteristics? Where did they go? Many conjoint body mighty figures widened their eyes in bewilderment. Su Zimo's 3 supreme Dharma characteristics had already vanished completely, leaving only a gigantic fireball floating on the spot. Immediately after, under countless gazes, the gigantic fireball expanded slowly, and a figure rose rapidly within with an unstoppable aura. Even the firmaments could not suppress his torrential aura. Even the ground could not withstand his massive body. That figure was like an immortal king that had awakened from the flames, or a god that was born from the flames. In the heavens and earth, he reigned supreme and suppressed the surroundings with a terrifying aura. Even the surrounding conjoint body mighty figures felt their hearts skip a beat when they saw that aura. What's that? The expressions of the experts of the primordial 6 races, who were initially watching, changed starkly. The Golden Crow Third Prince was shocked and stood up with a bang, exclaiming. The other experts of the primordial races had grim expressions, as well as they stared fixedly at the figure with wary expressions. Some of the experts of the primordial races even revealed a hint of fear in the depths of their eyes. The figure rose and grew continuously. In the blink of an eye, it was already 90 feet tall. I've got it. A mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice, Dao Lord Araki Takashi has fused 3 supreme Dharma characteristics. He wants to condense a brand new heaven and earth Dharma characteristic and break through the shackles of the extreme realm. Break through the extreme realm. The other experts of the primordial races shuddered. That's impossible. God Han Ling shook his head. 9 is the extreme number, and 90 feet of a heaven and earth Dharma characteristic is considered a supreme. Throughout history, no one has been able to surpass the extreme realm and condense a heaven and earth Dharma characteristic that is more than 90 feet tall. 9 was the extreme number, and was like an unshakable great Tao of heaven and earth. It was like a heavenly chasm that could not be crossed. At the Foundation Establishment realm, 9 Meridian Foundation Establishment was known as the Extreme Foundation Establishment Realm, and was already the limit. It was heaven-defying to break through the shackles of such a great Tao. Not necessarily. The mighty figure of the Bloodvine race said slowly. The power of fusing 3 supreme Dharma characteristics is way too strong. It might truly be able to surpass the extreme realm. Boom. The moment the mighty figure of the Bloodvine race said that, the 90 feet tall heaven and earth Dharma characteristic grew once more to a height of 91 feet. Ka. A series of cracking sounds echoed from the heaven and earth Dharma characteristic. It was as though it had broken free from the shackles of the great Tao, and its aura turned even more berserk. The crowd of cultivators paled in shock. They had personally witnessed an earth-shattering scene. In this lifetime, a cultivator broke through the restraints of the great Tao and condensed a heaven and earth Dharma characteristic that surpassed a 90 feet supreme. Boom. Another deafening sound echoed from the body of the heaven and earth Dharma characteristic. In the blink of an eye, it grew another foot. 92 zhang. Boom. 93 zhang. Boom. 94 zhang. With every inch it grew, the aura of the heaven and earth Dharma characteristic would grow stronger. Under countless shocked gazes, this heaven and earth Dharma characteristic grew to a height of 99 feet, before it finally stopped. 99 feet. The pinnacle of the pinnacle. The heaven and earth Dharma characteristic burned with raging flames, and stood in flames. It had 3 heads and 6 arms, and wielded a lightning whip, a heavenly fiend scythe, and a creation lotus platform. It was like a fiend god that fought against the heavens. The entire heaven and earth valley seemed to have gone silent. It was as though all the cultivators, even the experts of the primordial 6 races, were stunned by the aura of the heaven and earth Dharma characteristic and fell silent. Su Zimo looked at the heaven and earth Dharma characteristic with a calm expression. For the past 100 years, apart from the advancement of his cultivation, his greatest gain was the possibility of fusing 3 heaven and earth Dharma characteristics. He had once thought that a 90 feet supreme might not be the limit of a heaven and earth Dharma characteristic. Although it had not been done before, it did not mean that it was impossible. However, if he wanted to surpass the extreme realm and supreme realm, he had to be supported by immense strength. Even with his talent and cultivation, he had only managed to condense 3 supreme Dharma characteristics despite obtaining so many opportunities. It was the same for Monk Daming of the Grand Primordium Ancient Temple. Monk Daming had heaven-defying combat strength, and was the strongest opponent Su Zimo had encountered up till this point of his cultivation. Furthermore, he had condensed 4 supreme Dharma characteristics, and was even stronger than him. However, be it him or Monk Daming, neither of them could condense a heaven and earth Dharma characteristic that surpassed a 90 feet supreme. Therefore, Su Zimo guessed that normal cultivation would not be able to break through the shackles of the extreme realm. If he wanted to break through the shackles, he had to find another way. The fusion of Dharma characteristics was one of the possibilities. However, Su Zimo's 3 heaven and earth Dharma characteristics came from different Tao sects of the immortal, Buddhist and fiend sects respectively. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to fuse them. He had to find a compatibility point, or rather, a commonality between the 3 heaven and earth Dharma characteristics. That commonality was flames. Su Zimo had once cultivated the Scarlet Flame Heart Sutra, and condensed 3 Tao fires of the immortal, Buddhist and fiend sections. Using the 3 Tao fires as a guide, he fused and incinerated the 3 heaven and earth Dharma characteristics. Bathed in flames, he condensed a new Dharma characteristic, the 99 feet tall heaven and earth Dharma characteristic that he was currently using. How dare a bunch of rotting corpses provoke me? Su Zimo looked at the dozens of battle corpses not far away and hollered, "Burn!" The 3 heads opened their mouths at the same time, and spat out 3 balls of scorching flames towards the battle corpses. Not only was the heaven and earth Dharma characteristic the fusion of 3 supreme Dharma characteristics, it was also fused with 3 Tao fires. The flames that were spat out were the Samadhi Tao fires. Su Zimo's glabella shone, and another essence spirit fire burst forth, entering the Samadhi Tao fires. The Kacharati Tao fire descended into the mortal world, and swept in all directions, engulfing the dozens of battle corpses instantly. Prior to this, even though the battle corpses were battered and riddled with holes by Su Zimo's supreme Dharma characteristics, they still possessed combat strength. They did not know fatigue or pain and charged forward continuously. The battle corpses did not have sentience, and even Buddhist Dharma could not expiate them. However, the battle corpses seemed to be in immense pain when they were engulfed by the Kacharati Dao fire, as they struggled and roared repeatedly on the spot. The battle corpses were invulnerable to weapons, fire and water. Even extreme fire's Samadhi Dao fire could not incinerate the battle corpses. However, Su Zimo's Kacharati Dao fire was different. Pus and blood flowed continuously from the bodies of the battle corpses. However, the moment it flowed out, it was burned to ashes by the Kacharati Dao fire. No matter how the battle corpses struggled, the Dao fire on their bodies could not be extinguished. In less than 10 breaths, the dozens of battle corpses were reduced to ashes and dissipated into the world. The 3 corpse refinement cult mighty figures who were controlling the battle corpses were pale. Up till this point of their cultivation, all their efforts were on the battle corpses. Now that they were burned to ashes by Su Zimo, it was equivalent to destroying more than 10,000 years of their cultivation. The blow was way too great. After losing their battle corpses, the combat strength of corpse refinement cult mighty figures was greatly reduced, and they were no different from ordinary conjoint body mighty figures. Su Zimo's heaven and earth Dharma characteristics swung the thunder whip in its hands and lashed it forward viciously. The whip seemed to have crossed the voids and struck the 3 corpse refinement cult mighty figures. Piak! Not only did the whip contain the terrifying power of thunder, there was also the Kacharati Dao fire. Instantly, the 3 corpse refinement cult mighty figures were torn into pieces, and their essence spirits were burned to ashes in midair. Chapter 1304. More than 10 battle corpses were burned to ashes, and some conjoint body mighty figures, who could not dodge in time, and were swept into the Kacharati Dao fire were not spared. In a few breaths, they were burned into nothingness by the Kacharati Dao fire, and their essence spirits were destroyed. Many mighty figures were shocked and retreated instinctively. With a single thought, Su Zimo's heaven and earth Dharma characteristics strode towards the night spirit with him following closely behind. The moment a mighty figure of Zephyr Thunder Palace in front of him summoned his Dharmic weapon, the heavenly fiend's scythe slashed down. Clang! Sparks flew when the heavenly fiend's scythe collided with the Dharmic weapon. The mighty figure of Zephyr Thunder Palace shuddered, and the sound of bones and tendons cracking could be heard from his body as his arms collapsed before long. In terms of strength, a 99 feet tall heaven and earth Dharma characteristic was more than a single level higher than a supreme Dharma characteristic. Initially, the combined forces of many conjoint body mighty figures could restrain Su Zimo on the spot and suppress the 3 supreme Dharma characteristics firmly. However, the fusion of Dharma characteristics to form a heaven and earth Dharma characteristic that surpassed the extreme realm was already above the conjoint body realm. Exclamation point! The heavenly fiend's scythe slashed down, and the mighty figure of Zephyr Thunder Palace was split into 2. His essence spirit was destroyed and he died. A mighty figure of Diamond Monastery made use of his powerful physique and shocking bloodline to wield an indestructible diamond staff to stop Su Zimo in his tracks. Su Zimo's Dharma characteristic wielded the Creation Lotus platform and smashed it down on the head of the mighty figure of Diamond Monastery. Boom! The Creation Lotus platform collided with the diamond staff with a deafening bang. Ah! The mighty figure of Diamond Monastery cried out in pain, and his palm was torn apart as blood gushed out, and the diamond staff flew out of his hands. The mighty figure of Diamond Monastery wanted to retreat, but Su Zimo's Dharma characteristic was a step faster. He chanted Sanskrit, and the Creation Lotus platform smashed down, smashing him into pieces with blood splattering on the spot. At the same time, the other arm of the heaven and earth Dharma characteristic danced and brandished a lightning whip that burned with flames, whipping another conjoint body mighty figure. Piak! The conjoint body mighty figure was whipped to death, and his essence spirit was destroyed. The 99 feet tall heaven and earth Dharma form unleashed an unimaginably terrifying combat power. Even the mighty figures from the various super sects could not stop its murderous footsteps. He was simply an invincible supreme fiend god that could stir up a storm. Wherever it passed, many mighty figures were thrown off their feet. Fresh blood dyed half the sky red. The blood of the mighty figures was incomparably tragic. One figure after another fell from the sky. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 conjoint body mighty figures died in the hands of Su Zimo's heaven and earth dharma characteristic. The heaven and earth valley was dyed red with blood. Noticing this, the smile on Tianji's face deepened. What are you laughing at? Seeing the smile on Heavenly Fortune's face, the hatred in Yan Beichen's heart grew even more violent and intense, as if he had returned to the moment when he died in the bamboo forest of the central continent. If not for the person before him, their whereabouts would never have been exposed. If it weren't for the person in front of him, Tian Ran wouldn't have died. Since you're the one who jumped out, I'll kill you first. The fiend chi on Yan Beichen's body intensified, and the hatred fiend saber buzzed. His aura rose once more and endless pitch-black saber shadows burst forth towards Heavenly Fortune. Amidst this endless hatred, there was also a biting cold murderous intent. Heavenly Fortune was alarmed. It was no wonder why the Hatred Sutra was the #1 fiend technique of the ancient era. The stronger the hatred in one's heart, the more terrifying the hatred fiend chi would be, and the stronger one's combat strength would be. Furthermore, Yan Beichen's burst this time round was not only accompanied by the hatred fiend technique, but also the power of the Shura. The fusion of the two fiend cultivation techniques formed a powerful saber intent that coexisted with hatred and killing that enveloped Heavenly Fortune within. Initially, Heavenly Fortune could still deal with Yan Beichen. However, after Yan Beichen's attack, Heavenly Fortune felt his scalp tingle, and he felt as though a calamity was imminent. Not good. Heavenly Fortune retracted his smile, and his expression darkened. This saber intent is too strong. I can't fight it head-on. Heavenly Fortune could sense that the power of the saber intent had already surpassed the scope of the conjoint body realm. Annihilation fog. Heavenly Fortune hollered softly and rich dermic powers surged out of his body, forming a gray fog around him. His figure disappeared into the fog before long, as though he had entered the void and vanished. Poof, poof, poof. Streams of hatred fiend chi and Shura fiend chi pierced into the fog one after another. The annihilation fog seemed to have suffered an immense impact and floated outwards rapidly. The saber intents formed by the two fiend techniques of hatred and Shura were extremely terrifying and sealed off all of Heavenly Fortune's paths of retreat. Heavenly Fortune had not expected that a single smile of his would incur such intense hatred and fury from Yan Beichen. What a lunatic! Within the fog, Heavenly Fortune lost his composure and cursed internally with a scarlet glint in his eyes. The saber intent was way too strong, and even with the escape techniques of Enigma Palace, it was difficult for him to break free. All of a suddenly, a blood light flashed through the fog. In a flash, the blood light darted out through the gaps between the intertwining fiend chi and saber intents of hatred and Shura. The fog dissipated and Heavenly Fortune's figure vanished. The blood light paused in the distance and revealed its true appearance. It was Heavenly Fortune who had escaped. At that moment, Heavenly Fortune's expression was terrible, and there were a few bloody wounds on his body. He looked at Yan Beichen with lingering fear. Yan Beichen's expression was cold, and he did not give chase. He knew very well that given Heavenly Fortune's capabilities, it would be difficult for him to catch up within a short period of time if he made use of that escape technique. He could not let Immortal Sword escape in order to kill Heavenly Fortune. Immortal Sword had to die today. Yan Beichen turned around once more and charged toward Sword Sect. If Su Zimo could see what happened just now, he would definitely be shocked to discover that the escape technique that Heavenly Fortune released after escaping was the blood escape technique that he was extremely familiar with. Purple Flame, you betrayed the sect and harmed your fellow sect mates. Today is the day you'll be executed. On the other side, Extreme Fire hollered and channeled his essence spirit to its limits, causing the Samadhi Dao fire to burn brightly. The endless power of flames had already burned into Purple Flame's body and bloodline. Aha! Purple Flame reared his head and roared with a pained expression. He opened his mouth and spat out flames. His entire body had been burned to the point where his skin and flesh were lacerated. He was beyond recognition. This was also because Purple Flame had cultivated the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra in the past. Otherwise, he would have been burned to ashes a long time ago. However, he could not absorb the power of bloodline in this place, and his dermic powers were depleted. He could no longer hold on, and the Samadhi Dao fire burned from the inside out, engulfing him completely. In midair, Purple Flame's figure vanished, leaving behind a gigantic human-shaped fireball. Gradually, the fireball lost all signs of life. Then it turned into sparks and drifted down. Extreme Fire had a conflicted expression when he saw that, and did not feel the joy he had imagined. After all, Purple Flame was his senior brother. In fact, he could even recall the scenes of senior brother Purple Flame, bringing him along to cultivate, when he first joined 100 Refinement Sect. Who would have thought that as time passed, the two of them would gradually drift apart to the point where they were incompatible like fire and water? In the end, Purple Flame still died in his hands. Cultivation was long, and the world was unpredictable. How many people could not forget their original intentions? Chapter 1305. Yen Beichen was surrounded by the two terrifying fiend chi of hatred and Shura, as he charged towards Immortal Sword once more. Poof, poof, poof. The two terrifying fiend techniques of the Hatred Sutra and Shura Sutra were already pushed to their limits. Yen Beichen seemed to have arrived on a sea of blood with a torrential malevolent aura. Many mighty figures of Sword Sect could not defend against Yen Beichen's attack. Shura wielded the Hatred Fiend Saber, and resembled an ancient fiend emperor. Many mighty figures of Sword Sect died one after another. The startling Sword Intent and lifeless Sword Intent could not defend against the sharpness of the Hatred Fiend Saber. In the blink of an eye, only more than 10 mighty figures of Sword Sect were left. Furthermore, every mighty figure of Sword Sect retreated continuously with panic and fear on their faces. Although conjoint body mighty figures had exuberant life force, and could even regrow their limbs, how could they be severely injured against the Hatred Fiend Saber? All of them were dead souls. Many conjoint body mighty figures had cultivated for more than 10,000 years, and did not want to die here just like that. Some mighty figures of Sword Sect turned and fled, not daring to fight against Yen Beichen anymore. Standing in the crowd, Immortal Sword panicked, and looked at the unfamiliar faces around him, as though he was pleading for help. Those unfamiliar faces were all mighty figures of the primordial 6 races. However, they had changed their appearances and concealed their true bodies. Right then, the experts of the primordial 6 races stood up in unison with grim expressions. "We can't watch any longer. We have to attack and kill him." God Han Ling said slowly, "That's right. If we allow him to continue growing, he'll be an unimaginable threat to us primordial races." The mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race nodded as well. "Fellow Taoists, thank you for your help. I'll definitely remember your kindness in my heart." Immortal Sword was delighted, thinking that the experts of the primordial 6 races were going to attack Yen Beichen. When he heard Immortal Sword's words, the Golden Crow Third Prince scoffed with a disdainful expression. To be honest, the primordial 6 races did not take the human cultivators present seriously at all. Even conjoint body mighty figures of the human race were not taken seriously. The Immortal Sword was famous in the cultivation world, but in the eyes of the Golden Crow Third Prince and the others, he was like an ant. Who would care about his life? "What's your name again?" The Golden Crow Third Prince reached out and patted Immortal Sword's face. "You are not qualified to call us brothers. Your life and death has nothing to do with us, haha." Immortal Sword was once a titular disciple of Sword Sect. Even if his essence spirit was injured, he was still a mighty figure. But now, he was being slapped by the Golden Crow Third Prince. Immortal Sword's smile froze. He had never suffered such humiliation since he started cultivating. If it was anyone else that dared to treat him like this, he would have fought back at the first possible moment. And he wouldn't hesitate to use any means to torture that person to death and burn their bones to ashes. However, The person in front of him was the Golden Crow Third Prince. Beside the Golden Crow Third Prince were conjoint body mighty figures of the other primordial races. If he were to show any signs of disobedience, he would be killed by the experts of the primordial 6 races before Yen Beichen could arrive. The Golden Crow Third Prince ignored him completely and left with the other experts of the primordial races before long, heading towards Su Zimo. Immortal Sword was motionless and clenched his fists tightly. His body trembled slightly, and his face flushed red. Even after the primordial 6 races left, he did not say a single word, and allowed the other party to trample on his dignity. Immortal Sword grit his teeth, and looked at Yen Beichen, who was charging over from afar without saying a word. He knew that he could not compare to Yen Beichen at the end of the day. If they were in each other's shoes, Yen Beichen would definitely dare to attack the primordial 6 races. However, Immortal Sword did not dare to reveal any hint of displeasure. On another battlefield, Su Zimo's Heaven and Earth Dharma characteristic was invincible and invincible. No conjoint body mighty figure could stop him. The mighty figure of Poison Sect who had threatened to kill Night Spirit earlier on was scared out of his wits and retreated hurriedly. "Where do you think you're going?" Su Zimo hollered. His Heaven and Earth Dharma characteristic waved its whip and crossed the voids, whipping the mighty figure of Poison Sect instantly, tearing him into pieces and killing him on the spot. After this round of killing, Su Zimo was extremely close to Night Spirit. Su Zimo's eyes shone brightly, and his thunder whip coiled, wanting to pull Night Spirit over from the ground. All of a sudden, a blood-red vine appeared, exuding an extremely evil aura. In an instant, it lashed out at the lightning whip. The power of thunder and Samadhi Dao fire burst forth instantly. The blood-colored vine constricted, and its surface was charred black. However, it was not injured at its core. However, the power of the thunder whip was completely neutralized. Without hesitation, Su Zimo's 99 feet tall Heaven and Earth Dharma characteristic strode forward and swung its arm, smashing down viciously with the Creation Lotus platform. At the same time, the Heavenly Fiend scythe descended as well. Good timing. A figure appeared in a flash and transformed into his true form. His golden hair danced, and his green eyes were deep as he emanated golden blood chi. Splash! The sound of a tsunami could be heard from within the figure's body. Tsunami blood. The figure did not use any dermic weapons, and merely punched towards the Creation Lotus platform with his bare hands. The crowd was shocked when they saw that. Even mighty figure dermic weapons might not be able to defend against the power of Su Zimo's Dharma characteristic, let alone a body of flesh and blood. Boom! The Creation Lotus platform collided with the person's fist with a deafening bang. The figure took half a step back, but his fist was undamaged, and the Creation Lotus platform was repelled as well. The golden-haired man flung his palm and grinned. "It does hurt a little." It only hurt a little to receive the Creation Lotus platform with his bare hands. On the other side, the moment the Heavenly Fiend scythe slashed down, it was blocked by a cold beam of light and sparks flew. A tall figure stood in midair. He had a green face and fangs, looking extremely ugly. A pair of pitch-black flesh wings grew from his back, and he wielded 2 crescent-shaped sabers that were shockingly curved and shone with a cold glint. The primordial races had finally appeared. Su Zimo was extremely familiar with the 2 primordial races that attacked at the back. The golden-haired and green-eyed one was from the Protoss lineage. The one with the green face, fangs and wings was from the Rakshasa race. As for the one that blocked his thunder whip, it was an extremely evil plant that waved countless blood-colored vines. Every vine seemed to be a thick blood vessel. At the top of the vines was a human face. It had no nose or eyes, only a bloody mouth. Inside the mouth, sharp tusks were intertwined, glittering coldly, as if they could tear and mince everything apart. Although he had never seen that primordial race before, Su Zimo could vaguely guess through that form that it should be another primordial race, the Bloodvine race. Legend has it that the Bloodvine race survived by devouring the blood of all living beings. They would not reject even the bloodlines of the other primordial races. Any living being that entered the territory of the Bloodvine race by mistake would be torn apart and devoured as nourishment. Not even their bones would be left, It was extremely savage. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he vaguely thought of something. However, at that moment, he was in a dangerous place and could not even protect himself. He could not save the night spirit either, and was extremely tense. He truly did not have the mood to think carefully, and that flash of inspiration disappeared. Chapter 1306. A golden light flashed with a scorching aura. The temperature emitted by the golden light seemed to be even higher than the Samadhi Dao fire. The golden light was extremely fast and circled Su Zimo's heaven and earth dharma characteristic. Su Zimo's dharma characteristic waved its 6 arms, but could not catch the golden light. Buzz! Buzz! Su Zimo's heaven and earth dharma characteristic swayed, and a gigantic wound appeared on its chest. Dharmic powers were draining. However, this heaven and earth dharma characteristic had already surpassed the extreme realm, and its dharmic powers were condensed. The Samadhi Dao fire burned fiercely and stopped the loss of dharmic powers instantly. The golden light paused and revealed its true appearance. It was the Golden Crow Third Prince. Hee. The Golden Crow Third Prince laughed and said, "The flames on your dharma form are quite interesting. It's only slightly weaker than my Golden Crow fire." The Golden Crow race had the bloodline of the sun flowing through their bodies and burned with flames. They lived above the East Ocean and perched under the Fusang tree. They were divine birds of the primordial era. Not only were the Golden Crows extremely fast, they were not inferior to the Rakshasa race. They also possessed extremely terrifying golden flames that could incinerate everything. None of the conjoint body mighty figures present dared to approach Su Zimo's heaven and earth dharma characteristic, afraid that they would be tainted by the Samadhi Dao fire. However, the Golden Crow Third Prince was not afraid at all. Not only was he close to Su Zimo's heaven and earth dharma characteristic, he even seized the opportunity to attack and revealed his Golden Crow feet, creating a gigantic wound on the dharma characteristic's chest. Just the 4 experts of the primordial races were enough to stop Su Zimo's heaven and earth dharma characteristic. The bloodlines of the primordial races were powerful, and they were the most ancient living beings. Conjoint body mighty figures of the primordial races were comparable to half-martial ancestors of the human race in terms of combat strength. For example, the monster incarnates of the primordial races with the purest bloodlines and strongest talent could even suppress half-martial ancestors of the human race. Although Su Zimo's heaven and earth dharma characteristic had surpassed the extreme realm, it could not defend against the power of a half-martial ancestor. Night Spirit was 100 feet away. Normally, 100 feet would be covered in the blink of an eye, but now there were hundreds of primordial races between them. Furthermore, dozens of them were conjoint body experts of the primordial races. This distance of 30 meters was like an insurmountable chasm. Immortal sword, pay with your life. Right at this moment, a loud shout came from not far away. In an instant, billowing demonic chi soared into the sky, covering the sky and the sun. It was pitch black like ink, and the entire world dimmed. Even the experts of the primordial 6 races were slightly surprised. Under Yen Beichen's attack, Immortal Sword's body was already covered with cuts and bruises, and his face was devoid of blood. Yen Beichen took a step forward and slashed with the Hatred Fiend's saber in his hand. It instantly landed on the head of the celestial sword. Demonic aura filled the sky, as if it was going to devour the celestial sword. Ah! The immortal sword shrieked with a ferocious expression. His facial features were all twisted together. Holding the sword with both hands, the sword hummed and emitted 6 dazzling rays of mystical pattern light, blocking the Hatred Fiend's saber. Clang! The sound of metal clashing echoed in an ear-piercing manner. The saber and sword clashed. Yen Beichen and Immortal Sword did not move at all. Instantly the world seemed to have stopped. Snap! The sword broke. Immediately after, the wounds on Immortal Sword's body ruptured and spewed out a scarlet blood mist. His eyes gradually dimmed and his life force drained rapidly. Yen Beichen's hateful slash destroyed all the life force in Immortal Sword's body. All the hatred in Yen Beichen's heart over the years was vented with that slash. Immortal Sword could not defend against it at all. Even his destiny dermic weapon was severed by the Hatred Fiend saber. Foo-foo. The corners of Immortal Sword's mouth twitched, as though he wanted to laugh. However, hot blood flowed out of his mouth, and he let out a strange sound. Even if you kill me, why you won't be able to save that SL*T. Immortal Sword had a deranged expression as he stammered. You've lost, you've lost. Ha ha. Ha ha ha. Immortal Sword's laughter came to an abrupt end. Suddenly, his body exploded into a blood mist, and his essence spirit was destroyed without a corpse. Even though Immortal Sword knew that he was going to die, he did not want to let Yin Beichen have a good time before his death. Immortal Sword was best at toying with people's hearts. Otherwise, people like Qin Pianran and Tao Lord Cloud Rain would not have died in his hands. His words before his death had indeed struck Yin Beichen's sore spot. I've lost, I've lost. Although Immortal Sword was destroyed, Yin Beichen was not as happy as he imagined. His body trembled, and he had a pained expression, sinking into endless guilt and self-blame. His mind seemed to be in a daze as he muttered to himself, he's right. Pianran, you can't return. It's all my fault. Fufu. When he saw that, the Golden Crow Third Prince scoffed. By the looks of it, there's nothing to be afraid of. He's not worth our effort at all. That's right, he's merely a second hatred. He's of no threat, and will commit suicide sooner or later. The mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race said indifferently. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat, as he suddenly realized something. The Hatred Sutra was indeed powerful. Yin Beichen's combat strength had increased exponentially after inheriting the legacy of the Fiend Emperor Hatred. He could be said to be the second Fiend Emperor Hatred. However, what was the outcome of the Fiend Emperor Hatred? The deeper Yin Beichen cultivated the Hatred Sutra, the harder it was for him to extricate himself. At that moment, he would only sink into such pain and be delirious when he thought of Qin Pianran. As time passed by, and he was immersed in that pain, he might never wake up and make the same choice as Tao Lord Hatred. That was suicide. Su Zimo did not dare to think about it, and did not have the energy for the time being. That was the danger that Yin Beichen might encounter in the future. Right now, the most important thing for Su Zimo was to rescue Night Spirit and escape this place. Zimo, I'm here to help you. Right then, Extreme Fire had just killed Purple Flame when he sensed Su Zimo's situation and rushed over without hesitation. Master, watch out! Su Zimo's expression changed as he reminded hurriedly. Although Extreme Fire had just entered the conjoint body realm for more than 100 years, his body was fused with the supreme Dharma characteristic, and his dharmic powers were powerful. His combat strength was also ranked at the top of the conjoint body realm. Even against conjoint body mighty figures of super sex, Extreme Fire would not be disadvantaged. But now, the ones standing in front of Su Zimo were experts from the primordial races, and their combat strength far exceeded the conjoint body realm. A mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race stood in midair motionlessly with his hands behind his back. All of a sudden, a crack split open on the glabella of the mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race, as though an eye was opened. There seemed to be countless mysterious and powerful runes surging within, as though they contained the strongest power in the world. As the eye opened slowly, the entire heaven and earth valley trembled. The mountain collapsed and sand rolled down. The crowd was shocked. What sort of power was that? He could cause such a huge commotion just by opening an eye. A dark beam of light shot out from the eye and arrived instantly. The moment Extreme Fire moved, his heart skipped a beat as he sensed a strong sense of danger descending. Without hesitation, he used his Destiny Dharmic weapon, the weapon tripod, to block in front of him. At the same time, the dark beam descended with a destructive aura. Clang! The dark beam collided with Extreme Fire's weapon tripod with a loud bang. Extreme Fire shuddered and could not control his body. He was sent flying with a pale face and spat out a mouthful of blood. The first wall of his weapon tripod was penetrated by the dark light. A single gaze was enough to penetrate Extreme Fire's Destiny Dharmic weapon. How terrifying was the power of that eye! Chapter 1307. The reason why the Primordial 9 races were known as the Primordial 9 races and dominated the ancient times was because every single one of them possessed extremely powerful inheritances and abilities. Humans were born weak, and might not be able to kill ferocious beasts, even when they were in their prime. However, the primordial 9 races were different. When these primordial races were born, they possessed many innate powerful abilities. For example, the Golden Crow race was born with 3 legs, and could spread their wings to fly, controlling the sun god fire. The Golden Crow race could even slaughter spirit beasts and demons with ease, let alone ferocious beasts. Dragons were born with sharp claws and fangs, and controlled the 5 elements. Every race had different abilities that they were good at. For example, the Heavenly Eye race's bloodline and physique were naturally far stronger than humans. However, they were only ranked in the middle among the primordial 9 races. The strongest technique of the Heavenly Eye race was the eye in their glabella. That eye was also known as the Heavenly Eye, and was where the strongest power of the Heavenly Eye race gathered. That was also the origin of the name of the Heavenly Eye race. The visual technique of the Heavenly Eye race was the strongest among the 10,000 races. Although it was only a dark light, it came from the Heavenly Eye. If it was any other conjoint body mighty figure, they would have died with a single glance from this mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race. Extreme Fire's innate combat strength was top-notch among the humans. However, he had just entered the conjoint body realm, and was still far from being comparable to the mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race. His destiny dermic weapon was destroyed, and Extreme Fire was implicated. He was severely injured, and could not even control his body, falling from midair with a dispirited expression. Grandmaster! Tao Lord Scarlet Star exclaimed and rushed forward to protect Extreme Fire. Take Master and leave this place immediately. Su Zimo immediately sent a voice transmission to Tao Lord Scarlet Star. Uncle Master, but you? Tao Lord Scarlet Star had a hesitant expression. If you guys get involved in this battle, the entire 100 Refinement sect won't be able to withstand it. Hurry and leave. Don't stay here. Su Zimo's tone turned even more anxious. Extreme Fire was severely injured by the mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race, and his combat strength was greatly reduced. Even if he stayed here, he would not be of any help, and might even distract Su Zimo. At that thought, Tao Lord Scarlet Star finally made up his mind and hollered, 100 Refinement sect, follow me. The 100 Refinement sect was the first to leave the battlefield. Senior Crane, take the cultivators from Misty Peak, and leave as soon as possible. Su Zimo transmitted his voice again. He didn't know why, but he kept feeling a little uncomfortable, as if he had overlooked something extremely important. This Heaven and Earth Valley also made him feel uneasy. That uneasiness did not come from the primordial 6 races. Tao Lord Araki Takashi, the fact that you were able to create a cosmic idol that surpasses the paramount realm and reaches a height of 99 feet is truly unprecedented. God Hanling slowly said. However, you still have to die today. In the face of the primordial 6 races, that dog's hit dharma characteristic of yours is nothing. Rakshasa Fong Tian sneered with a menacing expression. You Protoss and Rakshasa race really don't learn from your mistakes. Su Zimo's gaze was cold as he said with a murderous aura. Seems like I haven't killed enough foreign races in Myriad Phenomenon City. I'm still not ruthless enough. Even against a group of primordial races, Su Zimo's aura did not weaken at all. Even Immortal Sword did not dare to make a sound when it was slapped by an expert of the primordial race. However, Su Zimo did not conceal his killing intent against the primordial 6 races. How dare you? You don't know what's good for you. The Protoss and Rakshasa experts hollered. God Hanling's expression darkened instantly. Antaraki Takashi, you must have a death wish. Rakshasa Fong Tian was enraged as well and shrieked. The voice of the Rakshasa race was sharp and unpleasant to the ears. The battle in Myriad Phenomenon City was a huge humiliation for the Protoss and Rakshasa race. In the cultivation world, the human race kept that battle a secret. However, it was extremely widespread among the primordial 9 races, and the Protoss and Rakshasa race were the subject of much discussion. After all, it was not glorious for them to be defeated and wiped out by the human race. You're the one who has a death wish. Right then, a cold voice sounded from the crowd. Immediately after, a figure more than 30 feet tall darted out. It shone with a red glow, and emitted a scorching aura, as it descended behind Rakshasa Feng Tian instantly. The figure was extremely fast, and coupled with the fact that it appeared suddenly, even the experts of the primordial 6 races on the battlefield could not react in time, let alone the surrounding cultivators. Who's there? Many experts of the primordial races only had time to shout, and did not manage to catch a clear glimpse of the figure's appearance. They could only make out a rough outline. The scarlet figure arrived behind Rakshasa Feng Tian, and extended its palm without hesitation, revealing menacing sharp claws that shone with a cold glint as it swiped down towards Rakshasa Feng Tian's head. Rakshasa Feng Tian was alarmed, and felt his scalp tingle. Without hesitation, he flapped his wings and fled into the distance. The Rakshasa race was way too fast. They were one of the best among the primordial 9 races. In that split second, Rakshasa Feng Tian's figure transformed into a black streak of light, and wanted to break free from the shroud of the menacing gigantic claw. All of a sudden, the arm of the figure crackled and expanded by 3 feet. Instantly, it caught up to Rakshasa Feng Tian's figure and grabbed down once more. Blood mist spewed out. Ah! Rakshasa Feng Tian shrieked tragically. His reaction was already fast enough, and his movement technique was pushed to its limits. Even so, the figure caught up to him, and tore apart one of his flesh wings with its sharp claws, ripping off a large piece, and causing blood to spurt everywhere. It was an extremely gory scene. Even the experts of the primordial 6 races gasped slightly. Even with Rakshasa Feng Tian's movement technique and speed, he could not escape unscathed. Just now, if this figure were to attack any of them, who would be spared? The moment that thought flashed through their minds, a change happened on the battlefield once more. The scarlet figure tore apart Rakshasa Feng Tian's wings with a single claw. It did not stop as it continued forward. Its 3-foot-tall body was like a python that suddenly coiled around Rakshasa Feng Tian's body. His blood chi surged, and he exerted strength. Crack! Crack! The sound of bones cracking could be heard from Rakshasa Feng Tian's body. Under countless gazes, Rakshasa Feng Tian's body was completely distorted from the pressure and distorted beyond recognition. Rakshasa Feng Tian's eyes bulged and were bloodshot. His face was purple, and his blood chi dissipated rapidly. At the conjoint body realm, one could regrow limbs. Even if one's body was severely injured as such, there was hope for recovery, as long as one was given time to recuperate. However, at that moment, Rakshasa Feng Tian was coiled by the scarlet figure. No matter how fast he was, he could not break free, and was even enduring immense pain. An essence spirit burrowed out of Rakshasa Feng Tian's head with a panicked expression, wanting to escape into the distance. Swoosh! Suddenly, the scarlet figure opened its mouth and spat out a tongue of fire, sucking the essence spirit into its mouth and burning it to ashes in the blink of an eye. Rakshasa Feng Tian was dead. Chapter 1308. The death of Rakshasa Feng Tian caused Heaven and Earth Valley to fall into a dead silence. This scene was much more shocking than the death of a conjoint body mighty figure of the human race. Conjoint body experts of the primordial 6 races could suppress mighty figures of the human race with ease. Even a monster incarnate of the human race like Extreme Fire was severely injured by a single move from a mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race. But now, a mighty figure of a primordial race was killed on the spot by a living being of unknown origin in front of everyone. Who is that? Who else would dare to help Araki Takeshi, and even kill an expert of the Rakshasa race? That's way too ruthless. Could it be a half-martial ancestor, or a Mahayana patriarch? The cultivators focused their gazes, but were stunned on the spot. To be more precise, this crimson figure could not be considered a human. It was over 10 meters tall, and had crimson-red hair like flames. Its entire body was covered in crimson-red scales that even covered its cheeks. Only a pair of bright eyes could be seen, like 2 balls of fire. This was definitely a foreign race. The knuckles on the gigantic claw protruded like molten steel, and were filled with a metallic luster. The claws were incomparably sharp, and were even dripping with the scarlet blood of Rakshasa Feng Tian. The strange thing was that the left hand of the foreign race was the only one with such a menacing gigantic claw. The palm on his right hand was as fair as usual, and looked no different from a human's. The scarlet figure emitted an extremely violent aura, and his blood chi surged. In fact, he was not disadvantaged against the primordial 6 races. Many cultivators looked at the scarlet-haired foreign race, and felt as though they were facing a primordial race. Could this foreign race be one of the primordial 9 races as well? That can't be right. I don't think any of the primordial 9 races look like that. This foreign race looks a little like dragons. Now that you mention it, I'm reminded of something. A cultivator reminisced. I heard that back in Myriad Phenomenon City, Araki Takashi transformed into a dragon to kill the foreign race. He seemed to be in this half-dragon form. Are you saying that this foreign race is Araki Takashi? That's impossible. This idea was a little too far-fetched. Lord Araki Takashi was standing to the side. He was dressed in green robes and had black hair. He looked very different from this red-haired alien. If the red-haired man was Araki Takashi, then who was the black-haired man in the green robe? Could this be a clone of Lord Araki Takashi? In fact, some cultivators had already guessed the truth. This red figure was the true body of the dragons. The moment their true forms appeared, they did not hold back and appeared in their half-dragon's form right away against the experts of the primordial 6 races. Hearing the discussions around him, Suzumo's expression did not change. He did not care about exposing the true form of the dragons. Even if everyone in the world knew that he had the true body of a dragon, it didn't matter. It wouldn't implicate the dragon race. Because no one knew that this true body of a dragon was the young master of the dragons. No one would have thought that a half-dragon being would become the young master of dragons. Of course, that was not absolute. Among the primordial 6 races, there were still people who were suspicious. Wuxia narrowed his eyes and shone with a dark green light in deep thought. Back then, the battle between the true form of the dragons and Long Song happened after Wuxia left. Therefore, he had never seen the true form of the dragons before, and naturally did not recognize the true form of the dragons right away. However, Wuxia had lived for a long time and was knowledgeable. He was sharp, and could vaguely sense that the scarlet-haired alien with dragon scales before him was related to the young master of the dragons he saw in the Dragon Bone Valley. Where did this beast come from? The mighty figure of the heavenly eye race said coldly. The Golden Crow third prince sniffed gently and said, Indeed, this beast possesses the bloodline aura of dragons. He's probably a bastard left behind by some dragons. Fufu, I was some powerful character back then. God Han Ling smiled gently. So he's only at the Dharma characteristic realm. Rakshasa Feng Tian's death can only be blamed on his carelessness. These words weren't empty words. If not for the sudden appearance of the true form of the dragons, and Rakshasa Feng Tian was caught off guard, he would not have been killed in a flash. Right then, a gentle breeze blew and 2 pitch-black beams of light crept behind the true form of the dragons at an extremely fast speed. Suddenly, the 2 beams of light appeared. They were 2 Dharma characteristic Rakshasas. The 2 Rakshasas could not hold themselves back, and wanted to take revenge for Rakshasa Feng Tian. As such, they sneaked over secretly and raised the curved sabers in their hands, slashing towards the head of the true form of the dragons. Under their gazes, the scarlet-haired alien did not even turn back, as though he did not notice anything. A ferocious look flashed through the eyes of the 2 Rakshasas. It was as though they could see the head of the scarlet-haired alien rolling with a fountain of blood gushing out. However, they did not know that their every move could not be hidden from the spirit perception of the true form of the dragons. You must have a death wish. All of a sudden, the true form of the dragons spat out a single word. Without turning back, he swung his arm in reverse and whipped a Rakshasa with the might of a divine elephant's trunk. Bang! Before the Rakshasa could even make a sound, he was whipped into pieces and blood stained the voids. What sort of power was that to be able to shatter the body of a Rakshasa with a casual punch? The expression of the other Rakshasa changed starkly. Before he could think further, a dragon claw had already grabbed his curved saber. Snap! The curved saber was crushed into pieces by the menacing dragon claw. Exclamation point! The dragon claw reached out and crushed the head of the Rakshasa. His essence spirit was destroyed and he died on the spot. In the blink of an eye, another 2 Rakshasas died. Where did this monster come from? Killing Rakshasas is as easy as crushing ants? We've never seen the combat strength of that taboo called Night Spirit. However, in my opinion, this scarlet-haired alien is the one who deserves the title of taboo. The cultivators were secretly speechless. The current situation of the Dharma characteristic ranking this time round had most likely exceeded everyone's expectations. All the cultivators were focused on the battlefield, and no one noticed that Heavenly Secrets, who was not far away, smirked with a faint smile. A strange sanguine glint shone in his eyes, and the wounds on his body had already healed. This beast is interesting. The Golden Crow Third Prince frowned. He can kill Rakshasas easily at the same cultivation realm. The mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race raised his brows slightly. The Rakshasas of this generation seem a little weak. Is that so? The aura of the true form of the dragons surged as he shouted, "Let me try the methods of the Heavenly Eye race then." The reason why the dragon's true form came was to kill the experts of the primordial races, and would not waste time talking to them. Furthermore, the Heavenly Eye race had just severely injured Extreme Fire, and the reason why the dragon's true form targeted him was to take revenge for Extreme Fire. The mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race frowned and said coldly, "You have a death wish. How dare you challenge me? You're the one I'm going to kill." Before his sentence was finished, the dragon's true form had already arrived before the Heavenly Eye race. The mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race had a grim expression. It was only at this moment that he sensed the ferocious and scorching aura emitted by the dragon's true form. It was as though it wanted to tear everything apart and incinerate everything. Not good, this beast's blood chi is too strong. The mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race was shocked. Chapter 1309. The true bodies of the dragons were at the Dharma characteristic realm, and were a major cultivation realm apart from the conjoint body experts of the primordial 6 races present. Even though Night Spirit was at the Dharma characteristic realm, he could not escape the pursuit of the primordial 6 races. However, the true bodies of the dragons were different from Night Spirit. The true bodies of the dragons were not pure dragons. Their bodies and blood chi were cultivated with the foundation of the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness. That was their strongest trump card. For races like the Heavenly Eye and Rakshasa races that were not known for their bodies and bloodlines, they were still doomed against the true bodies of the dragons. Suddenly, a crack appeared on the glabella of the mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race. The terrifying Heavenly Eye opened once more, and chaos seemed to fill it as countless mysterious runes surged. It was as though the world had just been created. A dark light burst forth. No matter how fast the movement techniques of the true bodies of the dragons were, they could not be faster than visual techniques. The moment the Heavenly Eye opened, the visual technique descended. At that moment, both parties were extremely close, and there was no time to dodge. The expression of the true bodies of the dragons were unchanged. Their eyes shone brightly, and 2 blazing flames burst forth with 2 scarlet beams of light. The power of divine power spread. It was an innate divine power awakened by the true bodies of the dragons, the Illumination Dragon Eye. This remnant of the dragons with an impure bloodline actually awakened the innate divine power of the Illumination Dragon lineage? Wuxia's eyes flickered, and he was even more doubtful. The Golden Crow Third Prince sneered. "Fufu, this beast is way too ignorant. He's courting death by using the Illumination Dragon Eye against the visual technique divine power of the Heavenly Eye race." The Heavenly Eye race reigned supreme over visual techniques in the world. The power of the Illumination Dragon Eye was considered top-notch among the many visual techniques. However, there was no doubt that it would lose against the visual technique of the Heavenly Eye race. After all, the Heavenly Eye on the forehead of the Heavenly Eye race was condensed with the essence of their bloodline and dermic powers. Boom! Before the Golden Crow Third Prince could finish his sentence, 2 scarlet beams of light collided violently with the dark light and exploded. A miserable shriek came from the battlefield as a figure staggered and retreated. Haha, I've said it before. This bastard is asking for it by challenging the Heavenly Eye tribe with his eye technique. The Golden Crow third prince was mocking when his expression suddenly changed, and his smile froze on his face. The experts of the primordial 6 races widened their eyes in disbelief as well. In a clash of eye techniques, the victor was indeed decided at the first moment. However, unlike what the experts of the primordial 6 races thought, the ones who cried out in defeat were not the true bodies of the dragons, but the mighty figures of the Heavenly Eye race. How is this possible? God Hanling frowned and murmured subconsciously, "This bastard is only at the Dharma characteristic realm. How can an eye technique injure a mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race?" The mighty figure of the Blood Vine race was also shocked. "This is definitely not the Torch Dragon's eye," the Golden Crow third prince said sternly. "The Torch Dragon's eye can't be this powerful." To be precise, the eye technique released by the true body of the dragons was indeed not the Torch Dragon's eye, but the Illumination eye. That was because an illumination stone was fused into his eye. It was a cardinal treasure of the universe, and was probably even older than the creation Qinglian. The eye technique of the Heavenly Eye race was indeed stronger than the Illumination Dragon's eye. However, the power of the Illumination Dragon's eye that was fused with the Illumination Stone was more than double. If it was a Tao Lord of the Heavenly Eye race at the same cultivation realm, that single collision would have blinded the eye on the forehead of the Heavenly Eye race. But now, the mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race only had a pained expression, and a trace of blood seeped out of his Heavenly Eye. His foundation was not injured, and he would definitely recover as long as he was nursed. However, the true bodies of the dragons would not give him the chance. After the head-on collision with the eye technique, the true body of the dragons had a cold expression without any emotions in his eyes. He strode forward and extended his dragon claws, grabbing the head of the mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race. Exclamation point! The dragon claws were sharp and pierced the head of the mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race instantly, shattering his consciousness and destroying his essence spirit. The true bodies of the dragons burst forth consecutively and killed another mighty figure of the primordial races. Elder! Many Heavenly Eye race beings were enraged and exclaimed, "Buzz! Buzz! Buzz!" Dozens of Heavenly Eye race beings, be it at the Dharma characteristic or conjoint body realm, opened their heavenly eyes at the same time, and a terrifying power burst forth instantly. Instantly, the world shook and a shuddering aura descended. The true bodies of the dragons warned with their spirit perception and left beforehand. In a flash, they had already charged into the camp of the primordial 6 races. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Streaks of dark light descended one after another, and failed to hit the true bodies of the dragons. Instead, they severely injured a few witches, Golden Crow and Bloodvine races who could not dodge in time. Only the Protoss relied on his powerful physique and blood chi, while the Rakshasa race relied on their speed to avoid being pierced by the dark light. "You Heavenly Eye race beings are crazy. Close your eyes!" The Golden Crow third prince roared. Once a visual technique was released, there was no way to retract it. Even if many experts of the Heavenly Eye race saw their visual techniques charge towards the experts of the primordial races and injure them by mistake, there was nothing they could do. After that commotion, the camp of hundreds of experts of the primordial races fell into chaos. Of course, there were also many dark lights that charged into the crowd. If even the experts of the primordial races could not defend against the visual techniques of the Heavenly Eye race, many human cultivators were even more miserable. Even some conjoint body mighty figures were killed on the spot by the visual techniques of the Heavenly Eye race, and suffered an unexpected calamity. The cultivators of 100 Refinement Sect and Ethereal Sect had long retreated, and were lucky to be spared. On the other side, the true bodies of the dragons made use of the chaos to arrive beside a mighty figure of the witch race. They reached out with their claws and grabbed the head of the mighty figure of the witch race. "Beast, how dare you!" The mighty being of the shaman race waved his pure white bone staff and muttered an extremely strange and evil incantation. A ghastly green palm condensed rapidly on his bone staff. Roar! Suddenly, The true bodies of the dragons reared their heads and roared into the skies, letting out a loud and clear roar that could pierce through metal and rocks. The dragon's roar reverberated through the world in a deafening manner. The mighty figure of the witch race shuddered and his eyes bulged, turning bloodshot instantly. To begin with, a dragon's roar was the strongest killing technique of the dragons. A dragon's roar could intimidate all races. If it was a human cultivator, the dragon's roar would have been able to shatter their bodies at this distance. The mighty figure of the witch race did not have it easy either. His eyes were bloodshot, and streaks of scarlet blood were slowly flowing out of his nostrils, mouth, and ears. The witch race was not known for their bloodlines and bodies to begin with. Furthermore, he was interrupted by the dragon's roar before he could finish chanting his secret skill incantation, and was stunned on the spot. The true bodies of the dragons were not stunned. With a cold expression, before their roar was finished, their menacing dragon claws had already descended and tore the mighty figure of the witch race into shreds. A mighty figure of the witch race was dead. For primordial races such as the witch race and the heavenly eye race, their bodies and bloodlines were not strong. Once the true bodies of the dragons closed in, they were doomed. The true bodies of the dragons descended and massacred everyone. Chapter 13:10. Of course, among the primordial 6 races present, the true bodies of the dragons were not invincible, and were invincible. For example, the Rakshasa and Golden Crow race were extremely fast. Even with the speed of the dragon's true bodies, they could not catch up to them within a short period of time. After the Bloodvine race transformed into their true bodies, they had many vines densely packed together. Even if a single vine was severed, it would not be able to injure their foundation, and it would be difficult for them to get close. As for the Protoss, they were known for their physique and bloodline to begin with. It was difficult for the dragon's true bodies to kill them in melee combat. Therefore, the only ones that the dragon's true bodies could truly fight in melee combat were the witch race and heavenly eye race. However, as time passed by, the people of the primordial 6 races gradually calmed down under the lead of the mighty figures of the primordial races. They stabilized their formation and fought the dragon's true bodies head-on with the Protoss as the main force. The Bloodvine race waved their vines and restrained the dragon's true bodies continuously, restricting their space. The Golden Crow and Rakshasa race interfered continuously around the dragon's true bodies. As for the Witch and Heavenly Eye race, they retreated to the periphery and distanced themselves from the dragon's true bodies, releasing visual techniques and witchcraft. The dragon's true body had a grim expression. He knew very well that once the formation of the primordial 6 races was formed, he would be trapped in an endless bitter battle, and might not even be able to kill a single one of them, let alone rescue Night Spirit. Little beast, let's see what else you have up your sleeves. Although an old Protoss had white hair, he was hale and hearty. He was tall and his body surged with golden blood chi as he charged towards the dragon's true body, and raised his fist to punch. A blinding golden light burst forth from his fist, as though a divine dragon was born. The void trembled. The blood chi and physique of the Protoss was way too strong. Even a divine race old man could also erupt with such a terrifying attack. Old dog, how dare you scold me? The true body of the dragons didn't dodge. His eyes were cold and flashing with cold light. He suddenly reached out and grabbed the old Protoss's fist. I think you're tired of living. I'll send you on your way now. Little bastard, how dare you speak such arrogant words? With your strength, do you think you can kill me? The old Protoss had a disdainful look on his face. Since the start of the battle, more than 30 members of the primordial races had died under the hands of the dragons. However, most of them were at the Dharma characteristic realm. Furthermore, not a single Protoss had perished in the hands of the dragons. The true body of the dragons grinned. In the palm of his outstretched hand, a gray mist condensed. It looked ordinary, and there was no terrifying power emanating from it. What is this? The old Protoss frowned. Although he did not recognize the origin of this gray fog, he vaguely felt a sense of unease. In the blink of an eye, the palms of the true dragons had already grasped the old Protoss's fist tightly, and gray mist quickly enveloped it. I don't feel anything. The Protoss was slightly stunned. His divine fist landed on the gray mist. It was soft, and his strength seemed to have sunk into the sea and disappeared. Although this attack did not injure the dragon's true body, the gray mist released by the dragon's true body did not hurt him either. Ha 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 ha. The old Protoss threw his head back and laughed with a mocking expression. What kind of T Dharma spell is this? How dare you use it to embarrass yourself? You! The old Protoss's voice stopped abruptly. He suddenly felt that his lifespan was rapidly decreasing at the speed of 1,000 years in a breath. It could not be stopped at all. What's going on? How can this be? The old Protoss subconsciously retreated, wanting to distance himself from the dragon's true body. However, the true body of the dragons grabbed his fist tightly like maggots following closely behind. The gray mist was still wrapped around the old Protoss. At this moment, the other experts of the primordial races also noticed the abnormality of the old Protoss. Elder, your face. God Han Ling's eyes widened as a trace of shock flashed across them. Under countless gazes, the old Protoss's face was aging at a speed visible to the naked eye. Wrinkles appeared on his originally glossy face. His lifespan was decreasing. And his chi and blood began to decline. The old Protoss reacted a little slower and did not break free from the entanglement of the dragon's true body. As time dragged on, he did not have the strength to break free. The old Protoss opened his mouth, wanting to roar and call for help. However, his voice became incomparably old, and a strange sound came from the depths of his throat. Everyone present could feel the loss of life in the old Protoss's body. Soon the old Protoss's eyes widened. His body was dry and there was no sign of life in it. He fell from the sky and died with a grievance. This old man from the divine race did not even understand what kind of spell he had died under until his death. What kind of method is this? I've never seen it before. It seems like it can reduce one's lifespan. He's only at the Dharma characteristic realm, and the Dharmic art he released can even reduce the lifespan of a conjoint body mighty figure? Furthermore, the speed at which his lifespan is decreasing is way too fast. The experts of the primordial 6 races were shocked. They had a legacy of history, and had seen all sorts of races and Dharmic arts. Even with their knowledge, they had never seen such a terrifying method before. Everyone, don't panic, the Golden Crow Third Prince said in a deep voice. Since that Dharmic art is so powerful, it must be extremely taxing on him as well. He won't be able to release it again within a short period of time. Not necessarily. The voice of the dragon's true body sounded coldly. I'll let you primordial races have a taste of the power of Baron. Swoosh. The dragon's true body conjured hand seals rapidly, and an extremely strange Dharmic power fluctuation spread into the surroundings, with his body as the center. Gray ripples appeared in the void like water ripples, rippling in all directions. After the dragon's true body entered the Dragon Bone Valley, he released Baron once, and even alarmed the dragon's elders. Due to the terror of Baron, the dragon's elders reached an agreement with him that they were not allowed to release it against dragons in the Dragon Bone Valley. After all, the reduction of lifespan with Baron was irreversible. That was way too shocking. Nobody wanted to lose their lifespan for no reason. Now that he was surrounded by the primordial 6 races, the dragon's true body no longer had any reservations. Instantly, the power of Baron burst forth and surged towards the primordial 6 races. In this battlefield, the dragon's true body did not have to worry about accidentally injuring others. The primordial 6 races were right beside him, and Baron enveloped the experts of the primordial 6 races first. What's that? The expressions of the experts of the primordial 6 races changed. The Golden Crow and Rakshasa races made use of their movement techniques and fled into the distance immediately. The Witch and Heavenly Eye races had already retreated to the periphery and were spared. However, some of the Protoss and Bloodvine races were not so lucky. The Protoss were in melee combat with the dragon's true body the entire time, and Baron burst forth, enveloping them instantly. After the Bloodvine race transformed into their true bodies, they took root underground and could not move. They were enveloped by Baron as well. Entering Baron was akin to sinking into a swamp, and one's movement speed became extremely slow instantly. It was difficult for them to move and break free. Some of the Protoss and Bloodvine races in the center of Barren had their lifespans decreasing rapidly, at a speed of 1,000 years per breath. Life was drained rapidly wherever the gray ripples swept. The world was barren. Chapter 1311. Although the primordial 9 races possessed heaven-defying combat strength and reigned supreme throughout history, the strength, bloodline, and physique that each race specialized in were different. Even the lifespans of the primordial races differed greatly. For example, among the primordial 9 races, the Dragons and Kuan race had the longest lifespans while the Bloodvine race had the shortest lifespans. The Bloodvine race was a spirit formed from plants and vegetation. Coupled with the harsh environment of the primordial era, they evolved many cruel methods and plundered the flesh and essence of living beings. That was why they were able to develop into a massive race. However, in essence, the Bloodvine race did not have long lifespans and was similar to humans. In other words, the Dao Lords of the Bloodvine race present only had lifespans of around 10,000 years. Even mighty figures of the Bloodvine race only had a lifespan of around 20,000 years. Although the other races were also losing their lifespan, they were still able to hold on after falling into the range of the Barren spell. For example, Protoss struggled to break free from the envelopment of Barren with their powerful physiques and blood chi. Some Protoss mighty figures had already escaped. However, Barren was way too harmful to the Bloodvine race and could be said to be fatal. The Bloodvine race was rooted underground and relied on their vines to fight against others. Unable to move, they could only watch as their lifespans decreased rapidly when they were enveloped by Barren. Some of the Dao Lords of the Bloodvine race that were closer to Su Zimo had lifespans of more than 10,000 years. In just a few breaths, they were exhausted of their lifespans and died. 1,000 years per breath and 10 breaths were equivalent to 10,000 years. Most of the mighty figures of the Bloodvine race that arrived here were more than 10,000 years old. How many breaths could they last? Even if some of the mighty figures of the Bloodvine race reacted and transformed into human form to escape the range of Barren with all their might, their lifespans were greatly reduced, and their blood chi deteriorated while their faces aged rapidly. How could this be? A mighty figure of the Bloodvine race fled into the distance and sensed the situation within his body. His eyes widened as he shrieked in disbelief. I've already left the range of the dermic art and my lifespan can't recover? This dermic art is way too domineering and reduces one's lifespan. It's irreversible. God Han Ling had already escaped and said with lingering fear. Normally speaking, their cultivation levels were higher than this red-haired foreign beings, but even they had to avoid this spell. When the Bloodvine race saw their people die one by one, their bodies trembled. It was unknown whether it was due to anger or some kind of fear. They gritted their teeth and said, "This red-haired foreign race must be killed. This beast is even scarier than that Dao Lord Araki Takeshi." The Golden Crow Third Prince said solemnly, "Kill, kill." A few mighty figures of the Bloodvine race lost their lifespans and were enraged. Their killing intent surged as they extended countless blood vines and charged into the crowd. The human faces at the top of the blood vines opened their bloody mouths and bit down on the head of a cultivator. The layers of fangs kept shrinking. In the blink of an eye, the human cultivator was devoured and turned into rumbling life force essence that replenished the blood chi of the mighty figure of the Bloodvine race. This was simply a disaster for the cultivation world of the major sects and forces. Most cultivators found it difficult to defend against the massacre of the Bloodvine race. Many vines danced and could even seal off all escape routes for cultivators, trapping them within and devouring them eventually. In that short period of time, even a few conjoint body mighty figures were not spared, and were devoured by the mighty figures of the Bloodvine race, without any corpses left. The crowd was in chaos. This was an unexpected calamity. Countless cultivators had terrified expressions as they screamed, roared, cursed, and fled for their lives. They had not expected that the primordial races would suddenly turn around and massacre them when they were initially killing Dao Lord Araki Takeshi. The ancient war was too far away. Many cultivators had already forgotten that the reason why the primordial races were called primordial races was because of their heaven-defying combat strength, ferocious and fearless. Joining forces with the primordial races was no different from asking a tiger for its skin. Without absolute strength, one might be standing with the primordial races a moment ago, but the next moment, they might end up as food for the primordial races. The Bloodvine race went on a killing spree, no matter what sect or aristocratic family they were from. Even the paragons and monster incarnates of super sects were nothing more than ants in their eyes. At that moment, be it Heavenly Dipper sect, Sword sect, Zephyr Thunder Palace or Chaos Essence sect, cultivators died. When Su Zimo saw that, his expression was cold and his heart did not waver at all. Just now, those super sects were still domineering and declared that they wanted to kill him and Night Spirit here. In the blink of an eye, they only had themselves to blame for ending up in such a state. Even though the speed at which one's lifespan was decreasing in the periphery of Baron was already very slow, no primordial races were willing to enter and waste their lifespan for no reason. With the might of Baron, all the experts of the primordial 6 races were forced to retreat. In a flash, Su Zimo's figure flashed, and his 99 feet tall heaven and earth dharma characteristic guarded by his side. He arrived beside Night Spirit swiftly and wanted to help Night Spirit up. However, when he grabbed Night Spirit's arm and raised it, he could not pull it up. Although Qinglian's true body was not as strong as the dragon's true body, nor was it as terrifying as the bloodline of the dragon's true body, her strength was not to be underestimated as well. Not to mention pulling up Night Spirit. Even lifting up a mountain peak would not be a problem. Ugh! Night Spirit's expression changed and he grunted. Su Zimo's gaze narrowed. Instead of pulling Night Spirit up, he triggered the chains on Night Spirit's body. The metal hoop tightened, and the spikes pierced Night Spirit's flesh once more, causing scarlet blood to flow. Su Zimo was anxious. If he wanted to rescue Night Spirit, he had to break the chains. Although Baron was terrifying, the dermic powers of the dragon's true bodies were not endless and could not last long. The experts of the primordial 6 races guarded the periphery and were all prepared. Once Baron dissipated, they would charge forward once more. Up till this point of the battle, more than 100 of the primordial 6 races had died. However, most of them were Dharma characteristic Tao Lords. Not many mighty figures of the primordial races died. In other words, if the experts of the primordial 6 races surrounded them once more, Su Zimo and Night Spirit would most likely be doomed. Su Zimo said in a deep voice, "Night Spirit, bear with it for a while. I'll try to break the chains." Night Spirit pursed his lips and nodded. Su Zimo gripped the Creation Lotus platform tightly and smashed it against the chains on Night Spirit's body. Clang! Sparks flew. Su Zimo shuddered and felt a tremendous recoil surge into his body. His palm went numb, and the Creation Lotus platform nearly flew out of his hands. Ha 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 ha! When he saw that, God Hanling could not help but laugh. Araki Takashi, don't do such meaningless things. This heavenly god lock is a precious treasure of the Protoss. Even Dharma treasures can't break it. Your Creation Lotus platform is far inferior. Chapter 13:12. Even the experts of the primordial 6 races were not flustered when they saw Su Zimo arrive beside Night Spirit. That was because they knew that there was no way Night Spirit could leave this place, as long as he could not unlock the heavenly god lock. Su Zimo also knew that it was not because the Creation Lotus platform was not strong enough. It was because the original Creation Qinglian was destroyed, and there was only a single Lotus platform left. It was naturally much weaker. I refuse to believe that I can't open a stupid lock. With a single thought from Su Zimo, the true body of the dragon sensed it. Sensing that it did not have much dermic powers left in its body, it stopped releasing Baron and opened its glabella, revealing a bronze square tripod. Su Zimo obtained the bronze square tripod in the Great Qian ruins, and its origins were unknown. Although the tripod was filled with cracks and was crippled, the broken body of the tripod was incomparably tough, and no divine weapon could hurt it. Su Zimo had used the bronze square tripod in Myriad Phenomenon City before, and many cultivators had seen it before. If he summoned the bronze square tripod, it was almost certain that he could not hide the relationship between the true body of the dragons. However, there was no other way at the moment, and he could only give it a try with the bronze square tripod. The blood chi in the true body of the dragons surged as it raised the bronze square tripod and smashed it against the heavenly god lock with all its strength. Clang! There was a deafening sound. The heavenly god lock was undamaged and instead shone with a bedazzling golden light. The powerful recoil nearly flipped the true body of the dragons. How strong were the true body of the dragon's physique and bloodline? Even so, his entire arm was numb from the impact, and his blood vessels were blocked. Night Spirit's neck and limbs were pierced by many spikes once more and fresh blood gushed out. However, Night Spirit grit his teeth and did not make a sound. Humph, God Han Ling said proudly. How can a piece of scrap metal like you touch the precious treasure of the Protoss? The stronger you are, the stronger the recoil of the heavenly god lock will be. The moment he said that, God Han Ling and the other experts of the primordial 6 races surrounded him once more. Without Baron, the experts of the primordial 6 races no longer had any reservations. All of them glared at Su Zimo, the true bodies of the dragons and the Night Spirit, who were in the middle of the battlefield with killing intent. The situation was becoming more and more critical. If they couldn't make it through this time, Su Zimo and the other 2 would all die here. That bronze square cauldron seems somewhat familiar. It seems that Dao Lord Araki Takashi once used this cauldron to fight against the Protoss commander in Myriad Phenomenon City. What is the relationship between this crimson-haired alien and Dao Lord Araki Takashi? Some cultivators had already noticed the abnormality. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes, thinking of a countermeasure. The more dangerous the situation was, the more he had to remain calm. Right then, a low and hoarse voice rang in Su Zimo's ears. Zimo, back off. It was Yen Beichen. Instinctively, Su Zimo retreated and looked towards Yen Beichen. At that moment, Yen Beichen had already snapped out of his self-blame and hatred just now. Wielding the Hatred Fiend saber, he strode over with a torrential fiend chi with pitch-black eyes. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. God Han Ling had once said that even the Dharma treasures of Mahayana patriarchs could not shatter this heavenly god lock. However, the Hatred Fiend saber was not a Dharma treasure. It was an Emperor weapon that was even stronger than Dharma treasures. An Emperor weapon was known as an Emperor weapon. Yen Beichen did not put on any stance and slashed with his saber. The Hatred Fiend saber transformed into a black beam of light and slashed towards the heavenly god lock. At the same time, the experts of the primordial 6 races charged forward and attacked as well. Araki Takashi, let's see what else you have up your sleeves. Let's kill that crimson-haired beast first and see what he is. The experts of the primordial 6 races hollered with killing intent and were filled with resentment. As members of the primordial races, they had never suffered such a loss. All of them were forced back by a single dermic art. At that moment, Yen Beichen attacked the heavenly god lock. Su Zimo's 99 feet tall heaven and earth dharma characteristic was already covered in injuries up till this point of the battle and could not defend against the experts of the primordial 6 races at all. The gaze of the dragon's true body burned brightly as blood chi surged within his body. The sound of a tsunami echoed, and his aura rose continuously. Splash! Tsunami blood! What a powerful blood chi! The hearts of the experts of the primordial 6 races skipped a beat as well. Humph! God Han Ling's expression was fearless as he said coldly, "What's there to fear if it's just tsunami blood? My bloodline has also been cultivated to this level." Splash! The sound of a tsunami rumbled from within God Han Ling's body, as well, and his blood chi surged with a terrifying might. However, the aura of the dragon's true body was still rising rapidly and showed no signs of stopping. Scarlet demonic chi rumbled around the dragon's true body, and within the blazing flames, menacing and lifelike ancient demon kings with frightening gazes condensed one after another. Wild Ox Demon King, Stone Bear Demon King, Anaconda Demon King, Sanguinape Demon King, Divine Chariot Demon King, Hell Tiger Demon King, Wind Leopard Demon King, Desolate Ocean Dragon King, Sea Calming Turtle, The 9 demon kings were born from flames and descended with powerful auras. Their claws and fangs were sharp and their demon eyes shone with a ferocious glint as they surrounded the dragon's true body. Although there were only 9 demon kings, they were not disadvantaged in terms of aura against the encirclement of experts of the primordial 6 races. Bloodline phenomenon. The group of cultivators who had fled far away could not help but turn back when they sensed the commotion. Their expressions changed. It's Araki Takashi. That scarlet-haired alien is definitely Tao Lord Araki Takashi. The bloodline phenomenon was way too shocking, and Su Zimo was the only one in Tianhuang mainland who had released it before. Although the bloodline phenomenon before them seemed to have 2 more terrifying demon kings than what the cultivators knew, everyone knew that apart from Tao Lord Araki Takashi, no one else could cultivate such a phenomenon. Could that scarlet-haired alien be the clone of Tao Lord Araki Takashi? Pust. At the thought of that possibility, the cultivators could not help but gasp. That was way too terrifying. A single Tao Lord Araki Takashi was already so strong. However, the combat strength of this scarlet-haired alien was even more terrifying. If the 2 of them were the same person, what sort of existence was that person? It's truly possible. A cultivator said sternly. Don't forget, Tao Lord Araki Takashi's dragon's bloodline disappeared completely after the battle in the Tao inheritance ground. From the looks of it, there's a high chance that he created this clone with the bloodline of dragons. As expected of the strongest monster incarnate in history, on the battlefield, the experts of the primordial 6 races were shocked as well. The bloodline phenomenon of the 9 demon kings before them was no less shocking to them than the barren dermic art just now. Was that a bloodline phenomenon? What sort of bloodline phenomenon would cause such a huge commotion and release such insufferably ferocious 9 demon beasts? Many of those demon beasts were from the most ordinary races. However, even the mighty figures of the primordial 6 races felt their hearts skip a beat when they exchanged glances with those demon beasts. Roar! Right then, the true bodies of the dragons opened their mouths. The 9 demon kings opened their mouths at the same time and let out an earth-shattering roar. Silence filled the heavens and earth. The experts of the primordial 6 races were so shocked by the roar that they lost their voices and even forgot to breathe. The Dharma Daojun of the closest primordial race could not withstand the roar and bled from his 7 orifices. His essence spirit was destroyed and he died on the spot, his corpse falling from midair. Chapter 13:13. Although the bloodlines of the primordial 6 races were noble and powerful, apart from the Protoss, none of the experts of the other 5 races had cultivated a bloodline phenomenon. However, as long as a Protoss reached a certain age, they would be able to form a bloodline phenomenon without cultivating. The purer a Protoss's bloodline, the stronger the bloodline phenomenon formed. That was also the strength of a Protoss's bloodline. Kill them. God Hanling quickly calmed down. With a command, he pushed his blood chi to the limit, and a tall and majestic pyramid appeared beneath him. It was at least several thousand feet tall, and it exuded a boundless golden light. It exuded an ancient and mysterious aura. Beneath the pyramid, living beings of the 10,000 races knelt. There were hundreds of millions of them densely packed, and there was no end in sight. Every single living being had their palms pressed together and looked up at the pyramid above their heads, chanting prayers with pious expressions. Thin golden threads extended from the heads of the billions of living beings and gathered at the top of the pyramid, where a godlike existence stood. It was God Hanling. Bang! 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 The remaining Protoss released their bloodline phenomenons as well. Instantly, dozens of ancient pyramids descended and hovered in the void, causing the world to quake. The cultivators watching from afar were shocked. In a daze, they felt as though they had returned to the primordial era, where they were enslaved and ruled by the Protoss. A fear that came from the depths of their bloodlines grew in their hearts. Even some conjoint body mighty figures were pale and felt stifled in their chests, finding it difficult to breathe. In the primordial era, humans knelt on the ground. They were the most inferior and insignificant members of the billions of living beings, and their lives were akin to ants. Right now that scene had reappeared in the world. Even though the cultivators had already fled far away, they still felt a tremendous pressure after the dozens of pyramids descended. Some cultivators even had the urge to kneel on the ground and worship. The cultivators could not imagine the pressure Su Zimo, who was at the center of the battlefield and surrounded by dozens of ancient pyramids. No matter how strong the scarlet-haired alien was, he was only at the Dharma characteristic realm. How could a Dharma characteristic bloodline phenomenon fight against the phenomenons of so many Protoss? Not to mention, there were several Protoss powerhouses. Evildoer, so what if you've cultivated a bloodline phenomenon? In front of my Protoss phenomenon, you bunch of beasts are nothing but chickens and dogs. You won't be able to withstand a single blow. God Hanling roared. Don't waste your breath on him. Kill him as soon as possible. The Golden Crow Third Prince said loudly. Boom, boom, boom. Almost at the same time, the primordial 6 races attacked. Dozens of ancient pyramids charged towards the true bodies of the dragons with a massive aura. The 9 demon kings were naturally fearless. They moved at the same time and collided with the dozens of pyramids. The wild ox plowed through the heavens, raising its horns and overturning a pyramid. The stone bear's huge body leaned forward and slammed into the pyramid, almost shattering it into pieces and causing cracks to appear. The giant python coiled around the pyramid, opened its bloody mouth, and swallowed the entire pyramid into its stomach with a force that seemed capable of swallowing heaven and earth. The sanguine ape thumped its chest and stomped its feet. Striding forward, it raised its fist and smashed down with a torrential aura. Divine Steed Charge, Hell Tiger Bite, Wind Leopard Shuttle, Dragon King Tail Whip and Spirit Turtle Sea Suppression. The 9 demon kings released shocking combat strength and defended against the dozens of pyramids. The clash of bloodline phenomenons was earth-shaking. However, the situation was still extremely disadvantageous for Su Zimo. That was because he was not only facing the Protoss. There were also experts of the primordial 5 races. Although the 9 demon kings managed to defend against the dozens of pyramids for the time being, the experts of the other primordial 5 races seized the opportunity to attack and forced the 9 demon kings to retreat. 2 fists were no match for 4 hands. There were too many experts of the primordial 6 races, and the 9 demon kings could not defend against them either. Clang! Right then, the sound of metal clashing sounded from the side. It was extremely crisp but ear-piercing, like a sharp sword piercing one's eardrums. The Hatred Fiend saber had already struck the Heavenly God Lock. As though it sensed something, the Heavenly God Lock burst forth with a bedazzling golden light. A powerful force surged into the Hatred Fiend saber, wanting to repel it. That power stimulated the Hatred Fiend saber as well. Endless fiend chi emanated from the Hatred Fiend saber as well. It was pitch black and corroded the Heavenly God Lock continuously. The 2 weapons began to fight, and neither of them was willing to lower their heads. Although the Hatred Fiend saber was an emperor weapon, it was difficult for Yen Beichen to unleash its true power given his strength. However, the Heavenly God Lock's continuous stimulation of the Hatred Fiend saber triggered the emperor weapon instead. This was no longer a fight between cultivators, but a fight between 2 weapons. Su Zimo believed that the Heavenly God Lock was definitely not a match for the Hatred Fiend saber. However, it would take time to sever the Heavenly God Lock. On the other side, the 9 demon kings could no longer hold on. Everyone joined forces. These few beast phenomenons are already at the end of their tether. God Hanling declared with a torrential aura. Bang! The moment he said that, his pyramid descended and shattered Dragon King Desolate Ocean. The phenomenon dissipated and turned into rumbling scarlet demonic chi. Bang! 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 One after another, the remaining 8 demon kings did not last long before they all collapsed. The true bodies of the dragons had cold expressions. Suddenly, they opened their mouths and took a deep breath. Their chests puffed up, and they devoured the demonic chi formed by the 9 demon kings into their stomachs before spitting it out slowly. Scarlet demonic chi surged and changed around the true bodies of the dragons. When the primordial 6 races saw the 9 demon kings collapse, they moved one after another and charged towards the true bodies of the dragons. Just as they were about to close in, the expressions of God Han Ling, the Golden Crow Third Prince, Wuxia, and the other mighty figures of the primordial races changed, and they stopped instinctively. They felt a strong sense of danger, and their scalps went numb. The rumbling demonic qi around the true bodies of the dragons seemed to be nurturing an extremely terrifying existence. "Don't go over," God Han Ling shouted hurriedly. They could sense this danger at the conjoint body realm. However, many Dharma Daojun of the primordial races were fearless and continued charging towards Su Zimo without stopping. By the time they heard God Han Ling's warning, it was already too late. Right in front of their gazes, demonic qi surged behind the true bodies of the dragons, and a blood-colored butterfly gradually appeared. It spread its blood-colored wings with 2 bright moons imprinted on them, glaring at the people of the primordial 6 races like a pair of cold eyes. The blood-colored butterfly was only around 10 feet in size. Compared to the pyramid that was thousands of feet tall behind God Han Ling and the others, it was way too inferior, and was as insignificant as a speck of dust. However, the moment the blood-colored butterfly descended, the entire heaven and earth valley fell into dead silence. Thump! Thump! Some of the cultivators watching from afar did not kneel when the 9 demon kings descended. They also managed to endure the descent of the ancient pyramid. However, when the blood-colored butterfly descended, those cultivators could no longer hold on. Their bloodlines froze and their legs went limp as they knelt on the ground one after another. In fact, an illusion rose in the hearts of the cultivators. Primordial races, taboos, conjoint body mighty figures, and Mahayana patriarchs were all ants in the face of the blood-colored butterfly. If there was a god in the world, it could only be this blood butterfly. Chapter 13-14. What's that? The Golden Crow Third Prince's voice trembled, and he had a bewildered expression. The experts of the primordial 6 races were silent. Even in their inherited memories, they had never seen a bloodline phenomenon as such, let alone a blood-colored butterfly. All of a sudden, the blood-colored butterfly flapped its wings. Its movement was extremely light and insignificant. If not for the powerful eyesight of the experts of the primordial 6 races, they would not have been able to see it clearly. But it was the slight tremble of this pair of wings that caused an earth-shattering storm. The surrounding void was twisting, changing shape, collapsing and collapsing. The pyramid formed by the few remaining mighty figures of the god race was also constantly shaking. Countless stones and gravel tumbled down, and cracks appeared on the pyramid. Rumble! Bang! The pyramids that were thousands of feet tall collapsed completely in the blink of an eye, turning into dust and destroyed. The blood-colored butterfly was the ultimate phenomenon of the bloodline of the dragon's true bodies. Back in Myriad Phenomenon City, half of the blood-colored butterfly was illusory and not corporeal. Now that the dragon's true bodies had created 2 more demon kings, they had already cultivated 9 demon kings. More than half of the blood-colored butterfly's figure was corporeal, and its aura was even more terrifying. Poof! 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 Some of the Tao lords of the primordial races closest to the dragon's true bodies exploded into blood mists, and their essence spirits were destroyed. This kind of power was simply destructive to them. A single flap of the blood-colored butterfly's wings killed more than 100 Dharma Daojun of the primordial races. The entire void was dyed blood-red, and blood rained down from the skies. God Han Ling, the Golden Crow Third Prince, and the others were slightly further away. Coupled with the fact that they were at the conjoint body realm, they did not suffer such a terrifying impact. Even so, a few mighty figures of the primordial races shuddered, as though they were struck by lightning. Their faces turned pale, and they spat out mouthfuls of blood, looking dispirited. These mighty figures couldn't even control their bodies, and were on the verge of collapsing. Although they survived, they were obviously crippled. Far away, Heavenly Secrets stood in the middle of the crowd, watching this scene unfold. Unlike the shock in the eyes of the other cultivators, although Heavenly Secrets was surprised as well, he still had a faint smile on his face. Interesting, Tianji murmured. This Araki Takashi is more troublesome than I thought. However, this is also good. The more ruthless you kill, the more intense the battle, the more creatures will fall. Lord Araki Takashi truly is a perfect chess piece. A hint of bloodlust appeared in the depths of Tianji's eyes, but it quickly disappeared. On the battlefield, crack! A crisp sound rang out like a bolt from the blue. God Hanling sensed something, and his gaze shifted to the heavenly deity Locke. His face instantly darkened. The battle between the heavenly god Locke and the hatred fiend Saber ultimately ended in defeat. The heavenly deity Locke could not withstand the sharpness of the hatred fiend Saber at all. As the chains were shattered, the iron hoop lost its support and was chopped in half by Yen Beichen with a few slashes, falling off the Night Spirit's neck and limbs. Seeing this, Su Zimo was overjoyed. Night Spirit was finally free. However, this taboo that once dominated the primordial era was paralyzed on the ground with a weak aura and could not move at all. Night Spirit was way too severely injured. His limbs and neck were already a mess of flesh after being locked by the heavenly deity Locke, and his wounds were already rotten. Even if the Night Spirit's bloodline was strong and his regeneration capabilities were shocking, he would have to recuperate for a long time. However, no matter what, as long as Night Spirit was free, Su Zimo would have a way to escape with Night Spirit. Monster incarnate, you killed so many of my clansmen. I'll make you pay with your blood. Right then, God Hanling, the Golden Crow Third Prince, and the other experts of the primordial races roared and attacked one after another, launching terrifying attacks towards the blood-colored butterfly. The Golden Crow Third Prince's body burned with the scorching sun god fire, and he transformed into a gigantic fireball that burned with flames. The other Golden Crows released the same move as well. Instantly, it was as though scorching suns appeared beneath the firmaments one after another, carrying streaks of flames that surged towards the blood-colored butterfly. The dermic powers in the void had already dried up. Heavenly deity / under the lead of God Hanling, many Protoss channeled dermic arts at the same time and gripped the void with both hands, conjuring a gigantic sword in front of them that slashed towards the blood-colored butterfly with endless sharpness. Buzz! 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 Many heavenly eyes opened and countless mysterious runes appeared. Chaos chi filled the air as though the world had just opened. Streaks of dark light tore through the air. Ooh! 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 Thick blood vines coiled towards the blood-colored butterfly one after another, and blood chi filled the air as the wind howled. Shoo! 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 The Rakshasa race relied on their terrifying movement techniques and danced in midair. They wielded sharp curved sabers with both hands and could swoop down at any moment. Many witches chanted and waved the bone staffs in their hands, setting up incantations that were released on the blood-colored butterfly. The primordial 6 races were almost using their full strength. The blood-colored butterfly flapped its wings once more. A storm surged and collided fiercely against the attacks of the primordial 6 races. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion rang out, deafening everyone. Su Zimo, who was in the middle of the battlefield, had just helped Night Spirit up. However, he could not regain his footing and was knocked to the ground instantly. Even the 99 feet tall heaven and earth dharma characteristic beside him dissipated on the spot from the impact of the impact. The blood-colored butterfly gradually dissipated. No matter how strong the bloodline phenomenon was, the cultivation realm of the dragon's true bodies was clear. They were no match for so many experts of the primordial races. The true body of the dragon swayed. Many of the dragon scales on his body fell from the impact, this time round, and blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. The impact on the true body of the dragons was not small, and their organs were already shaken. If they were in a chaotic battle, the true body of the dragons would not have withstood such a terrifying and ferocious attack, by relying on the speed of their movement techniques to shuttle back and forth. But now, Qinglian's true body and Night Spirit were right behind him. If he left, Qinglian's true body and Night Spirit would die on the spot. Thankfully, Night Spirit was rescued after withstanding the impact. Brother Yen, come with me. Su Zimo dragged Night Spirit and withdrew a wrinkled beast skin from his storage bag with mysterious and complicated patterns etched on it. This was a treasure given to Su Zimo by an elder of ancient Array sect before he entered the Dao inheritance ground. An incomplete formation from the primordial era was etched on it. The formation was extremely complicated. However, if one could comprehend it, they could break through the restrictions of space and teleport cultivators billions of kilometers away. It wouldn't be a problem for them to cross the entire Tianhuang mainland. Of course, the formation was incomplete and had huge flaws. Back then, the elder of ancient array sect released it once. The cultivators who were teleported out never returned, and no one knew where they were teleported to. Su Zimo received more than 30 inheritances in the Dao inheritance ground, and one of them was from a formation grandmaster. After 5,000 years of accumulation, he had already comprehended the formation on the beast skin back in the Dao inheritance ground. This tattered beast skin was his final trump card. Chapter 13-15. Su Zimo channeled his dermic powers and injected them into the tattered beast hide. The formation patterns on it lit up and emitted a mysterious energy fluctuation. Brother Yen, immortal sword is dead. Leave this place with me first. Su Zimo persuaded once more. More than half of the experts of the primordial 6 races were dead, but there were more than 300 left, and more than 20 mighty figures of the primordial races among them. Even Yen Beichen could not defend against such power. Furthermore, heavenly secrets had already vanished in the chaos, and no one knew where he went. It was extremely dangerous for Yen Beichen to stay here. He might as well leave with him. Yen Beichen frowned slightly and hesitated. Although Immortal Sword was dead, the number of people he wanted to kill was far from enough. A single Immortal Sword was not enough to accompany Qin Pian Ran to death. Right then Su Zimo's expression changed. The formation patterns on the beast hide were completely activated, and rich dermic powers lingered around the beast hide as well. However, they could not condense, as though they were obstructed by a powerful force. How could this be? Su Zimo's expression changed slightly. Although this was his first time activating this array formation, he had already comprehended it completely back in the Dao inheritance ground. There was no way he would make a mistake. Ha 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 ha. The Golden Crow Third Prince laughed arrogantly and was extremely smug. Araki Takeshi, don't even think about using spatial teleportation. We've already sealed the space here, and you won't be able to escape. The Golden Crow Third Prince shouted. Hidden in the crowd, Heavenly Secrets smirked with a mocking expression. Sealing the space of Heaven and Earth Valley was his idea. Initially, the experts of the primordial 6 races were indifferent and disdainful when they heard that suggestion. In their opinion, there was no need to mobilize so many people to deal with a puny human cultivator. Even if he was the strongest monster incarnate in history, how could hundreds of experts of the primordial races not be able to suppress the Dharma Daojun of the human race? It was only under Heavenly Secrets' continuous insistence that the Golden Crow Third Prince and the others were persuaded to join forces with him to seal the space of Heaven and Earth Valley. Back in the Dao inheritance ground, Su Zimo had once used the major transference talisman to escape from the hands of a half-martial ancestor. Tianji would never make the same mistake. Su Zimo's heart sank when he heard what the Golden Crow Third Prince said. The space was sealed, which meant that the formation on the beast's skin could not be formed at all. Things like lesser shift talismans and greater shift talismans were also ineffective. If he could not teleport out, even Su Zimo's 2 true bodies would not be able to break out of the encirclement of the primordial 6 races, let alone the severely injured Night Spirit. This was equivalent to completely cutting off Su Zimo's path of retreat. In order to break the spatial seal, one needed to be strong enough and find the spatial seal's node. The current situation was dangerous, and the battle had yet to end. How could the primordial 6 races give Su Zimo the time? Moreover, even if he could find the spatial node, with his strength, the dragon's true bodies, and Yen Beichen's strength, it would be difficult to break this spatial seal. At that moment, God Han Ling, the Golden Crow Third Prince, and the others charged forward once more. Instantly, the situation turned extremely disadvantageous for Su Zimo. First leave. Don't bother about me. Night Spirit's eyes were half opened as it said weakly. Leave. If you want to leave, we'll leave together. Su Zimo rejected without hesitation with a firm tone. The true bodies of the dragons took a deep breath of air, and their gazes burned. A divine light burst forth from their glabella, and entered the firmaments instantly. The power of divine power spread. Boom! A deafening sound echoed from the skies. The clouds exploded, and a huge and thick stone pillar rapidly descended from the sky, emitting a terrifying pressure. The stone pillar was grayish-white, with a 5-clawed divine dragon crawling on it. It emitted an ancient aura and a wanton might. It was violent and sharp, as though it could suppress all races. This was the second innate divine power that the dragon's true bodies awakened in the Dragon Bone Valley. The gigantic ancestral dragon divine pillar was more than 10,000 feet long and needed hundreds of people to wrap their arms around it. It descended and suppressed the experts of the primordial 6 races that were charging over. The pressure caused the experts of the primordial 6 races to feel suffocated. Poof! 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 Some of the Dharma Daojun of the primordial races could not defend against it at all, and were crushed into meat paste by the ancestral dragon divine pillar, their essence spirits destroyed. The gigantic ancestral dragon divine pillar was only blocked by the combined forces of some mighty figures of the primordial races. Even so, dozens of primordial races were killed by the ancestral dragon divine pillar. There were only more than 200 of the primordial 6 races present. Ancestral dragon divine pillar. Right then, a sinister voice sounded from among the experts of the primordial races. Wuxia's expression was dark as he glared at the true bodies of the dragons. Initially, he was only suspicious. However, when he saw the appearance of the ancestral dragon divine pillar, he no longer had any doubts. Back when the true bodies of the dragons awakened this divine power, he was watching from the side. Wuxia believed that only the young master of the dragons could release this terrifying innate divine power. Wuxia said slowly, "It's really you. Stop hiding. You're the young master of the dragons." "Old dog!" The true bodies of the dragons suddenly shouted and interrupted Wuxia's words. The true bodies of the dragons could be exposed, but Su Zimo did not want to implicate the dragons and cause them to be surrounded by several primordial races. "I have to kill Wuxia." A vicious look flashed through the eyes of the true bodies of the dragons. If Wuxia was not dead, the fact that the true bodies of the dragons were the young masters of the dragons would not be able to be concealed. The dragons would definitely be implicated in this matter, and might encounter a calamity. Right then, a voice sounded in Su Zimo's ears. The voice was soft and almost inaudible, but it sounded familiar. The voice only said a single word: break. Break. Su Zimo was stunned. What was broken? Immediately after, Su Zimo felt the beast hide in his palm gradually heat up and emit an unusual fluctuation. The dermic powers that were initially lingering around the beast hide were condensing rapidly. A thought flashed through Su Zimo's mind. The spatial seal here had been broken by someone. Su Zimo was delighted. At that moment, the primordial 6 races had just clashed head-on with the innate divine power of the ancestral dragon divine pillar, and nobody noticed that the spatial seal had been broken. It was as though apart from Su Zimo, no one else heard that voice. However, Heavenly Secrets, who was watching coldly from the sidelines, noticed Su Zimo's abnormality. Narrowing his eyes, Heavenly Secrets sensed carefully, and his expression changed as he exclaimed in disbelief. "The spatial seal has been broken? How is that possible?" Heavenly Secrets' gaze flickered with a bewildered expression. Although there were some changes in the situation today, it was still within his control. But now, he suddenly felt that the situation seemed to be out of control. With the spatial seal and the intense battle, Araki Takashi did not have the chance to search for the spatial node. Furthermore, Araki Takashi's strength was not enough to break the spatial node, not even with Shura's help. In other words, someone else was the one who broke the spatial node. All of a sudden, Heavenly Secrets shuddered, and his expression turned extremely terrible when he thought of a possibility. Chapter 13:16. Heavenly Secrets thought of something that had happened before. Hellfire Hall's master, Purple Flame, who cultivated the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, had once attempted to absorb the bloodlines on the battlefield to recover his blood chi essence. However, it ended in failure. At that time, Heavenly Secrets was confused. He knew that Purple Flame had not cultivated the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra to perfection. However, it was definitely not to the extent of failing to absorb the bloodlines. Initially, he wanted to make a move secretly to stop Purple Flame from refining the bloodlines. Who would have thought that Ziyan would fail inexplicably, saving him a lot of trouble? Now that he thought about it, Heavenly Secrets realized that there was another expert hidden in Heaven and Earth Valley. When he connected it to the destruction of the spatial seal, there was a high chance that this person had the same motive as him. Right at this moment, a loud shout suddenly sounded out from beside him. "Heavenly Secrets, why are you hiding here?" That shout was extremely loud. Heavenly Secrets was alarmed and turned around to slap a cultivator on the chest, killing him instantly. The cultivator looked at Heavenly Secrets in disbelief with a lost expression. Even in death, he did not know why the person before him would suddenly attack. The crowd dispersed. "No, I killed the wrong person." Heavenly Secrets felt his scalp tingle. Just now, the fallen cultivator had clearly been bewitched by someone and had yelled at the top of his lungs. The mastermind did not appear at all. Heavenly Secrets retracted his smile with a grim expression. As a cultivator of Enigma Palace, he was led by the nose and was in an unprecedented passive state. All of a sudden, Heavenly Secrets sensed something and felt a chill run down his spine. It was as if he had been targeted by an extremely dangerous existence. It was as if there was a thorn in his back. Heavenly Secrets turned around slowly and looked over. In the distant battlefield, a tall and burly figure was speeding over with a saber. His white hair danced, and his eyes were pitch black with killing intent. It was Shura, Yen Beichen. Initially, Heavenly Secrets was hidden in the crowd, and Yen Beichen could not discover him. However, a loud shout suddenly came from the other side, which immediately attracted his attention. Soon after, Tianji attacked violently. The crowd was in chaos and scattered. Yen Beichen easily found Tianji in the crowd. Originally, Yen Beichen was still a little hesitant about whether or not he should leave with Su Zimo. Now that he saw that Tianji was not far away, he no longer hesitated and charged over with the Hatred Demon Saber. "Tianji, let's see where you can hide. Hand over your life." Yen Beichen was like the reincarnation of the Demon Emperor. His murderous aura soared as he strode forward. In the blink of an eye, he had already arrived in front of Tianji and slashed with his saber. Heavenly Secrets swung his folding fan and blocked the Hatred Fiend Saber. Clang! Sparks flew everywhere. Heavenly Secrets' arm sank. Shura, who had inherited the Hatred Sutra, might have just stepped into the body integration realm. But not many people could stop him in terms of combat strength. Heavenly Secrets believed that in a one-on-one fight, his methods were not weaker than God Han Ling, the Golden Crow Third Prince, and the others of the primordial 6 races. However, he still found it troublesome against Yen Beichen. That was because Yen Beichen was a complete lunatic. He was not afraid of death or injury. He would rather take a blow from Heavenly Secrets and poke a bloody hole in Heavenly Secrets' body. In the blink of an eye, both sides exchanged more than 10 blows. Yen Beichen was fighting with an internecine outcome, and a life for a life. Heavenly Secrets' folding fan had once struck Yen Beichen's leg heavily, crippling his left leg and breaking his tendons and bones. However, Yen Beichen did not seem to feel any pain. Instead, his expression turned even more vicious, and the hatred fiend chi on his body surged even more intensely. Heavenly Secrets did not know that the pain of his physical body could not compare to 1,000th of the pain in Yen Beichen's heart. The pain of his physical body would only reduce the pain in his heart slightly. Heavenly Secrets' cultivation had already reached the perfected conjoint body realm. In terms of pure strength, he was even stronger than Yen Beichen. However, after more than 10 rounds, Heavenly Secrets truly did not want to fight anymore. Yen Beichen had dozens of bones broken by Heavenly Secrets, but he was still fearless as he fought with a limp. His body was already covered in injuries. The most serious wound was a saber wound on his left abdomen. Thankfully, he retreated in time. Otherwise, he would have been pierced by that attack. As time passed by, the might of the Hatred Fiend's saber was gradually revealed. The Hatred Fiend chi could even corrode and tarnish an ancient unique treasure, like the mystic magnet mountain, and shield its power. When the blade sliced through Heavenly Secrets' wound, what sort of damage would the remnant Hatred Fiend chi cause to his flesh? Heavenly Secrets could clearly see that the wounds on his body were already rotting. Shura, why are you looking for me instead of saving Araki Takashi? Heavenly Secrets was enraged, but he suppressed it forcefully and questioned in a deep voice. I want you to pay with your life. Yen Beichen said word by word with a cold gaze that could devour Heavenly Secrets alive. Heavenly Secrets realized that it was impossible for him to shake off Yen Beichen easily. If he used an escape technique to escape, he would naturally be able to shake off Yen Beichen. However, his plans here would be for naught. Since that's the case, I'll send you down to reunite with that woman. A scarlet glint shone in Heavenly Secrets' eyes as he channeled a mental cultivation technique. His body seemed to have turned into a gigantic black hole that absorbed the rich bloodline in the battlefield endlessly. The Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. Heavenly Secrets knew the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra as well. Furthermore, the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra that he cultivated was clearly much stronger than the one released by Purple Flames. Heavenly Secrets racked his brains and implicated many factions to make use of the fight for the Dharma characteristic ranking. In fact, even the primordial 6 races and the primordial taboo were involved. Even Dao Lord Araki Takashi became his pawn to set up this shocking scheme for the sake of absorbing the bloodline of this place. The more living beings that died in Heaven and Earth Valley, and the richer their bloodline, the more beneficial it would be for him. Therefore, when he saw Purple Flames channeling the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra to absorb the bloodline of this place, he naturally wanted to interrupt. That was equivalent to snatching food from his mouth. Heavenly Secrets would not allow anyone to taint the bloodline of this place. Initially, Heavenly Secrets wanted to hide in the dark and circulate his fiend technique to absorb and refine the bloodline of this place after the battle was over. But now, Yen Beichen was pushing him too hard, and he could no longer care about anything else. Heavenly Secrets had just absorbed a small amount of bloodline when his expression changed starkly. His connection with the bloodline underground was severed by a sudden external force. The mastermind had attacked again. It's him. Suddenly, Heavenly Secrets recalled the identity of that person and could not help but widen his eyes in rage, trembling from head to toe. Up till this point of his cultivation, he had never lost his composure as such. That was because he had just realized that the shocking scheme that he had painstakingly set up and the rich power of bloodline that he had accumulated might have ended up benefiting someone else. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. He was merely the mantis. The mastermind behind the scenes was the oriole. Ouch! Heavenly Secrets shouted in a fluster. Coupled with the fact that he was injured, his blood chi surged, and he could not control it, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 13-17. Changes happened instantly on the battlefield. The spatial seal was broken, and Heavenly Secrets appeared. Yen Beichen chased after Heavenly Secrets, and a huge battle broke out. On the other side, the formation patterns on the beast hide lit up, and the teleportation dermic formation gradually took form. A gigantic dermic power vortex appeared faintly pitch black and deep. No one knew where it led to. The dermic power vortex was a spatial tunnel formed on the beast hide formation patterns. As long as one leaped into it, they would be able to break through the restraints of space and leave this place. Suzimo could leave at any time. However, there was something he had to do before he left. That was to kill Wuxia. This variable had to be killed, or there would be endless trouble in the future. Everyone hurry and attack. Stop Araki Takashi. His spatial tunnel is about to form, and we can't let him escape. God Han Ling shouted. There was no need for his reminder. The other experts of the primordial races had already attacked. If Araki Takashi and the primordial taboo were to leave, The consequences would be way too terrifying. We have to kill those 3 beasts here. A mighty figure of the Bloodvine race said sternly. The primordial 6 races suffered heavy losses in this battle, and the Bloodvine race was the most miserable. The true bodies of the dragons descended with Baron, and the Dharma Daojun of the Bloodvine race was almost completely wiped out. In a few breaths, his lifespan was exhausted and he died. There were only a few mighty figures of the Bloodvine race left, and they naturally hated the true bodies of the dragons to the core. You want to kill me? The true bodies of the dragons had cold expressions and leaped up. Instead of retreating, they advanced towards the crowd of the primordial 6 races and said coldly, I want to kill you guys too. The true bodies of the dragons charged towards Wuxia with a cold killing intent in their eyes that were as sharp as blades. Humph! Wuxia had long sensed it and retreated swiftly, sneering. Why? You want to kill me to silence me after I saw through your secret? As long as he distanced himself from the true bodies of the dragons would fall into the encirclement of the primordial 6 races and fight separately from Qinglian's true body. At that time, Qinglian's true body would only have 2 choices. If they stayed behind, both of their true bodies might be buried here. Otherwise, he could leave with the night spirit first. However, the fate of the dragon's true bodies was obvious. Still trying to escape? The eyes of the true body of the dragons narrowed, and the space between their eyebrows flickered. An enormous divine sense continuously condensed and compressed, and a heart-palpitating divine sense fluctuation spread out. A palm-sized crimson scale slowly floated out from between the eyebrows of the dragon's true bodies. It was in the shape of a crescent moon, and looked very ordinary. But when this dragon scale appeared, the entire world seemed to tremble. Space seemed to freeze. The experts of the primordial 6 races that were charging towards Su Zimo paused. The pupils of the Golden Crow Third Prince, God Han Ling, and the others contracted violently. They felt an extremely terrifying aura from this dragon scale. The only essence spirit secret skill in the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness. Reverse scale. This essence spirit mystic technique had only been released twice ever since the true bodies of dragons started cultivating it. That was because this essence spirit mystic technique was way too terrifying. In the Dragonbone Valley, many dragons' elders did not allow the true bodies of dragons to use it. The dragon scale appeared and flew towards Wuxia slowly. The dragon scale was not fast. However, for some reason, no matter how Wuxia retreated, he could not widen the distance between him and the dragon scale. Instead, it was getting closer and closer. It's just an essence spirit mystic skill. What's there to fear? Golden light shone from God Han Ling's glabella as he released the Protoss's essence spirit mystic skill as well. Buzz! 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 The experts of the primordial 6 races attacked one after another and released essence spirit mystic skills towards the dragon scale. You're courting death by using essence spirit mystic skills in front of the witch race. A few mighty figures of the witch race hollered as well, and released their essence spirit mystic skills right away. The primordial 9 races each had their own strengths. In terms of essence spirit cultivation and essence spirit mystic skills, the witch race was the strongest. Among the primordial 9 races, the witch race had an ordinary bloodline. Their bodies were the weakest and their lifespans were not long either. However, the reason why they were able to dominate the primordial era and be ranked as one of the primordial 9 races was because of their many essence spirit mystic skills. Not only were those mystic skills powerful, they were also strange and impossible to guard against. Essence spirit mystic skills descended one after another and struck the scarlet dragon scale. Immediately after, a scene that shocked everyone occurred. After the essence spirit mystic skills made contact with the dragon scale, the experts of the primordial races who attacked fell from midair one after another. Before his body landed on the ground, the life force in his body had already completely dissipated. They were dead. In the blink of an eye, more than 100 experts of the primordial races who attacked were all dead without exception. Even God Han Ling's eyes were widened with a stiff expression. There were no injuries on his face, but his essence spirit had already shattered in his consciousness. God Hanling tilted his head and fell from midair dead. Anyone who touched the reverse scale of a dragon would die. The dragon scale could not be touched or one would die. Of course, with so many essence spirit mystic skills striking the reverse scale, the dragon scale was already filled with cracks and was about to collapse. At that moment, the reverse scale had already arrived before Wuxia. Right from the beginning, Wuxia did not attack and merely wanted to dodge. That was because he had lived for so many years and had an extremely deep understanding of the essence spirit. He could sense an extremely dangerous aura from the scale. That was the reason why he did not attack. But now Wuxia could no longer dodge. Good. Wuxia said coldly. You won't be able to live even if you want me to die. Your two clones go to hell. In Wuxia's consciousness, his dark green essence spirit expanded continuously, and cracks appeared on his body. He was about to explode. Life-severing curse. Wuxia hollered. In his consciousness, his essence spirit exploded and released an extremely terrifying and massive spirit consciousness, condensing a forbidden skill of the witch race. The life-severing curse was a forbidden skill of the witch race. That was because the prerequisite for releasing the life-severing curse was the self-destruction of one's essence spirit. The moment he self-destructed, he would be able to complete the life-severing curse by obtaining a massive spirit consciousness. It could be said that the curse was exchanging a life for a life. The expressions of the Golden Crow Third Prince and the others changed when they heard the words life-severing curse. In the primordial era, although the witch race had a weak physique and bloodline among the primordial 9 races, the other races were unwilling to provoke them. That was because the witch race had some secret skills that required the sacrifice of their own lives. Once the witch race went crazy, the other races would not be able to withstand it. For example, even half-martial ancestors of the primordial races might not be able to defend against the life-severing curse released by the self-destruction of his conjoint body mighty figure essence spirit. Wuxia knew that he was going to die. Therefore, before he died, he wanted the true bodies of the dragons and Qinglian to be buried with him. The life-severing curse descended upon the consciousnesses of the dragons and Qinglian instantly. It appeared out of thin air and targeted their essence spirits directly. It was impossible to defend against. Even if Qinglian's true body carried an essence spirit dermic weapon, like the Mingwang prayer beads, she could not defend against the life-severing curse. That was the terror of the witch race. Die. Wuxia's essence spirit protected itself, and his remnant spirit consciousness was still shouting maniacally. With a menacing expression, he widened his eyes, wanting to see the tragic outcome of Su Zimo's 2 true bodies. Chapter 13:18. Qinglian's true body shuddered. In his consciousness, a dark green mist descended with an extremely evil aura and engulfed Su Zimo's black-haired essence spirit. At that moment, the black-haired essence spirit was seated on the creation lotus platform. Sensing danger, he stood up and roared into the skies as his consciousness churned. 54 Qinglian seeds transformed into rays of light and spewed out, forming a green sword in front of the black-haired essence spirit. Slay! The black-haired essence spirit hollered. Qinglian's sword slashed down viciously towards the dark green mist that was surging over. Exclamation point! The dark green mist was sliced into 2 instantly. It was clear that much of the evil aura was destroyed by Qinglian's sword. The mist that was sliced into 2 continued floating without any signs of stopping, as it continued to engulf the black-haired essence spirit. Pust! Su Zimo was alarmed. Ever since he cultivated Qinglian's sword to greater mastery, it could be said to be an unparalleled killing technique that targeted the essence spirit, and had always been successful. To think that it would not be able to destroy the life-severing curse. It was not because Qinglian's sword was not strong enough. However, there was a major cultivation realm difference between them after all. Furthermore, Wuxia sacrificed his life and self-destructed his essence spirit to complete the curse. How could it be defended against so easily? Slash! 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 The black-haired essence spirit controlled Qinglian's sword and slashed repeatedly, wanting to block the path of the dark green mist. Poof! 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 The sharp edge of the sword sliced the mist into pieces, and its color dimmed significantly. However, it still could not suppress the evil power of the mist completely. In the end, the green mist still enveloped the black-haired origin spirit. Su Zimo grunted, and felt as though his essence spirit was stuck by something. He could not even release his spirit consciousness. Although Qinglian's sword did not manage to dispel the life-severing curse completely, it managed to defend against most of its power. Otherwise, the black-haired essence spirit would dissipate within a few breaths if the dark green mist came into contact with it. Of course, the power of the life-severing curse still enveloped the black-haired essence spirit. Even Su Zimo did not know what the consequences would be. What he was truly worried about was the true bodies of the dragons. Unlike Qinglian's true bodies, apart from the essence spirit secret skill, the reverse scale, the dragons' true bodies did not have a killing weapon like Qinglian's sword. The true bodies of the dragon race mostly relied on their physical bodies and lifeblood to fight. They rarely relied on dharma artifacts. The life-severing curse, the true body spirit, the body's life-severing curse, essence spirit's essence spirit, the essence spirit's essence spirit and essence spirit essence spirit essence spirit. At the same time, the few mighty figures of the witch race who were still alive attacked one after another and released their essence spirit secret skills against the dragon true body. Deicide curse, essence spirit essence's spirit, essence spirit. Essence spirit. Although it was not as powerful as the life-severing curse, it was equally impossible to guard against. It was a strange curse that descended upon a cultivator's consciousness and wiped out their essence spirit. The spirit-slaying curse and life-severing curse descended at the same time. Within the sea of consciousness of the dragon race true form, there were 3 fist-sized balls of light that surrounded the dragon race true form. Each of the balls of light emitted a terrifying aura. No one knew what was being nurtured within them. Beneath the balls of light was an ocean that was dark, cold, and deep. The desolate sea of the vast wilderness was condensed from the massive spirit consciousnesses of the dragon's true bodies. The dark green mist formed by the life-severing curse descended upon the consciousness and fused into the desolate sea instantly, dyeing the black surface of the sea a sinister green. At the same time, the spirit-slaying curse descended and formed spirit-slaying storms that swept through the surface of the sea, creating raging waves. The 2 curses swept up torrential green waves that engulfed the scarlet-haired essence spirit with a terrifying might, as though they wanted to devour it completely. All of a sudden, in the depths of the desolate sea, a massive living being awakened and floated to the surface of the sea slowly. The first thing that floated to the surface of the sea was an incomparably tough turtle shell that resembled the firmament. It was filled with coarse cracks that crisscrossed without any pattern, as though it contained the secrets of heaven and earth. Immediately after, a pair of divine eyes opened and emitted a chilling gaze. The torrential waves that were just created in the desolate sea calmed down instantly. It was the sea-calming turtle. In the desolate sea of the upper world, the spirit turtle would usually hide in the depths of the desolate sea silently and almost never appear. However, the moment it appeared, even the overlord of the desolate sea dragon king, could not stir up any waves. The sea-calming turtle looked down at the surface of the sea that was dyed green, and a hint of rage appeared in the depths of its eyes. Suddenly it reared its head and howled. Swoosh! A massive spirit consciousness fluctuation burst forth and swept through the entire surface of the sea. The spirit-slaying storms dissipated instantly, and even the green surface of the sea returned to normal, turning dark once more. The power of the life-severing curse and spirit-slaying curse was suppressed by the sea-calming turtle before it could even touch a single strand of hair of the scarlet-haired essence spirit. Suddenly, the expressions of the mighty figures of the witch race changed. Not only did the sea-calming turtle suppress their spirit-slaying curses, it even released a terrifying spirit consciousness fluctuation as it roared and retaliated. The mighty figures of the witch race suffered a backlash from their essence spirits and spat out blood one after another. They fell from midair with haggard expressions. Although the mighty figures of the witch race managed to survive, their essence spirits were severely injured and it was difficult for them to advance their cultivation. They did not have many years left to live. Although the entire process sounded slow, it happened in the blink of an eye. Wuxia's eyes widened in disbelief. The scene that he had initially expected did not happen. Qinglian's true body was not dead. Even the true bodies of the dragons were not dead. It was clear that the expression of Qinglian's true body dimmed. Even if she was not dead, she was definitely not in a good state after being cursed by him. However, why was there nothing wrong with the true bodies of the dragons? All those spirit-slaying curses, and the life-severing curse that he released after sacrificing his life disappeared just like that? How is that possible? That was the last thought that Wuxia had in this world. The next moment, his remnant spirit consciousness dissipated as well, leaving behind a corpse that fell from midair. He was dead. Right then a change happened. The expression of the true bodies of the dragons changed as they leaped. Although he avoided his vitals, he was still a step too slow, and was pierced from the back by the curved saber of a mighty figure of the Rakshasa race. The bloody tip of the saber protruded from his chest with fresh blood dripping. Although Wuxia's life-severing curse and the spirit-slaying curses could not kill the true bodies of the dragons, the moment their essence spirits clashed, it affected the spirit perception of the true bodies of the dragons. That was the reason why a mighty figure of the Rakshasa race closed in on him. The saber pierced the true bodies of the dragons, and their blood chi drained rapidly. The true bodies of the dragons were enraged, and threw the bronze square tripod in reverse, smashing it towards the mighty figure of the Rakshasa race. The mighty figure of the Rakshasa race had already drawn his curved saber, and flapped his wings to leave, avoiding Su Zimo's counterattack. I can't stay here any longer. The thought flashed through the mind of the true bodies of the dragons as he clutched his chest. Wuxia was already dead, and he had to leave as soon as possible. Unfortunately, the remaining experts of the primordial 6 races had already surrounded him and severed his connection with Qinglian's true body completely. Furthermore, some of the primordial races charged towards Qinglian's true body. Chapter 1319. Araki Takashi, let's see where you can escape to. The Golden Crow Third Prince said coldly. You won't be able to survive today no matter where you go. Your clone of the dragons shall die here as well. At that moment, the experts of the primordial 6 races could already tell that the scarlet-haired alien was Su Zimo's clone. The more that was the case, the more they could not let Su Zimo leave. It was not only because too many of the primordial 6 races had died today and suffered heavy losses. More than that, it was because in the hearts of the primordial races, Tao Lord Araki Takashi was even more terrifying than the primordial taboo. Kill! The Golden Crow Third Prince reared his head and howled. His body burned with golden sun god fire, as he extended his third claw and grabbed the head of the dragon's true body. The Golden Crow race was also known as the 3-legged Golden Crows. Among the 3 legs below the abdomen, the third leg was the strongest and could tear apart all beasts and pierce through everything. Furthermore, the sun god fire burned on the third leg was also the purest and hottest. It was the essence of the sun god fire. The true body of the dragons took a deep breath of air and let out a deep roar. With a cold gaze, he suddenly extended his right hand and grabbed the third leg of the Golden Crow Third Prince. You must have a death wish, the Golden Crow Third Prince said coldly with a cold expression. He believed that even if the true body of the dragons used its dragon claws, it would not be able to withstand the killing power and flames of his third leg. Right now, the palm extended by the true body of the dragons looked fair and tender, no different from a human's palm. It was extremely weak and posed no threat at all. Strange, why does the palm of the dragon's clone look like this? That thought flashed through the mind of the Golden Crow Third Prince, but he did not think too much about it. In fact, the other experts of the primordial races did not know why the true body of the dragons would use such a weak palm to fight against the third leg of the Golden Crow Third Prince. It was no different from striking a rock with an egg. However, some cultivators standing far away guessed the truth. I've got it, a cultivator whispered. The reason why the right hand of the dragon's clone looks like this is because his right palm is the divine phoenix bone. Ah, I almost forgot about this supreme treasure. Back then, when the primordial chaos sect's half-martial ancestor attacked, Araki Takashi was severely injured, and his body was crippled. Everyone thought that the divine phoenix bone had been lost. From the looks of it, the divine phoenix bone is most likely on this clone of the dragon's. Do you mean that Araki Takashi's clone can already use the power of the divine phoenix bone? Just as the cultivators were discussing, a sudden change occurred on the battlefield. Just as the palm of the true body of the dragons was about to touch the third leg of the Golden Crow Third Prince, a loud phoenix cry suddenly sounded in the void. Screech. This phoenix cry carried with it a boundless pressure that could pierce through metal and crack stone. It was as resounding as the clouds and clearly entered the ears of every cultivator. The crowd of cultivators trembled in fear. The roars of dragons and the cries of phoenixes were something that human cultivators felt deep in their blood. Even the hearts of the experts of the primordial 6 races shuddered. Immediately after, a power that could destroy all living beings and incinerate all races spread out with a scorching aura that was suffocating. The right hand of the true body of the dragons had already vanished completely. In its place was a gigantic and menacing claw that was scarlet and almost transparent, burning with shocking divine flames. Instantly, the world trembled and the weather changed. The divine flames danced and the void distorted, burning until cracks appeared one after another. This claw that was burning with divine flames seemed to have come from a true deity, and it could burn this entire world into ashes. The divine phoenix claw. Prior to this, Suzumo had relied on the divine phoenix bone to avert danger several times. However, he could not truly channel the power of the divine phoenix bone. Ever since the true body of the dragons entered the Dharma characteristic realm, he could use the power of the divine phoenix bone to conjure the true divine phoenix claw. Although the third leg of the Golden Crow Third Prince was menacing and sharp, it was far inferior compared to the divine phoenix claw. The immortal divine phoenix was a god of the upper world, and was above the Golden Crow race in terms of status and bloodline. Even the flames on the third leg of the Golden Crow could not compare to the divine flames surrounding the divine phoenix claw. The Golden Crow race only controlled the sun god fire. However, the immortal divine phoenix controlled the flames of all races. If the flames on the third leg of the Golden Crow were considered a candle, the divine flames on the divine phoenix claw were a blazing sun. What is that? The Golden Crow Third Prince's eyes widened in shock. He actually felt great fear from this claw that was burning with divine flames. Even the sun god fire on his third leg was suppressed instantly, as though it did not dare to fight against the blazing divine flames. Hurry and retreat! The Golden Crow Third Prince shrieked and flapped his wings to escape rapidly. Unfortunately, just now, both he and the true body of the dragons had attacked with their full strength. By the time he reacted, the divine phoenix claw had already collided with his third leg. Buzz! 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 The golden sun god fire and scarlet divine phoenix flames collided and corroded continuously, letting out a strange sound. In the blink of an eye, the sun god fire was completely devoured by the divine phoenix flames. The power of a god was not to be provoked. Come down! The true body of the dragons hollered and retracted the divine phoenix claw. The sharp claws pierced through the flesh of the third leg and pulled down fiercely. The third leg of the Golden Crow was almost crushed by the divine phoenix claw. The Golden Crow Third Prince knew very well that he would definitely die if he was dragged down by the true body of the dragons. He was also a ruthless character. In a flash, the Golden Crow Third Prince made a decision. He used all his strength to flap his wings and escape. Ching! A blood mist spewed out and filled the void with a scorching temperature. The blood was burning with flames. It was the blood of the Golden Crow race. The divine phoenix claw tore the third leg of the Golden Crow Third Prince from his abdomen. Ah! The Golden Crow Third Prince's face turned pale as he let out a tragic cry.